tradition.
Let Korah keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Let's spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today.
In answer to his question about the subjects.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Oh, what a compliment. For that, I thank you.
What is happening now? There are homeless and hungry.
Now it's time for us to stand up for God or we fall to nothing.
It's time now for Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Listening to the general public, what the public is saying.
And good afternoon and a happy May 11th, Radio Cayman Nation. Thank you for tuning in to your station of the nation, Radio Cayman. I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Thank you for letting us into your homes, cars, and offices for today's episode of Talk Today. It's been a few months since I last had the opportunity to host our show. In that time, we have seen some dramatic changes globally and locally as we all find ways to cope with the changes to our daily lives. When we look back at some of the show notes from the last time I hosted in early January, we were talking about New Year's resolutions and changes to local farming and some of the businesses that were up and coming. And we've now seen a lot of those businesses having to shut their doors for extended periods of times, and just quite a few changes to our normal daily lives. And so one of the areas that we seek to delve into today is the topic of grief during the current pandemic. And we'll be welcoming to the show by phone today Ms. Dipna Carton from the HSA, psychiatrist Dr. McGill, life coach Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, and therapist Mr. Terry Delaney. As always, we do welcome your stories, feedback, and questions, and invite you to join the conversation. Simply dial 1-800-534-TALK. That's 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. Stay tuned for Talk Today following this brief disclaimer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Live Communication.
Let your voice be heard.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we're going to be delving into a very emotionally charged topic today of managing and dealing with grief during this current pandemic. And we'll be welcoming to the show today Ms. Dipna Carton from the HSA, Dr. McGill, psychiatrist at the HSA, I believe, life coach Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, and therapist Mr. Terry Delaney. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi. Good afternoon, Ray.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
I think we got 4 good afternoons there, right?
Yeah.
We're still kind of work with the modern technology and dealing with the Zoom meetings, and now I'm kind of lonely in the studio with everyone on the phone here today. So I guess we'll start with Ms. Dipna. Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon, Ray, and good afternoon to the wider public and all those listening across our 3 islands. I hope everyone's doing well. The reason that we're here today is that we recognise that much has been done to support our community in respect of mental health. However, in discussion with my colleague Dr. McGill recently, we recognised an area of particular need. Many people have experienced the loss of a loved one in the last few days, weeks and months. For those going back up to a few months ago, the usual means of support and traditional funerals and send-offs were still happening. This was a very therapeutic support for the people that were left behind and an active mechanism in the grieving process. However, due to COVID-19, this has significantly been abated and is unlikely to change anytime soon. Therefore, we're concerned that there may be many people who are suffering quietly and feeling very lonely in this, depleted social environment. And therefore, we're grateful for the opportunity to talk about this. But normally I come on to Radio Cayman and I'm talking about things from a community psychiatric nursing perspective. But today I'm actually speaking more from a personal perspective because I lost my husband some 8 months ago. And I had all the great support from our community and family and friends, and was able to give Roger a wonderful send-off and a wonderful funeral. And we even had a very traditional Irish thing, which was have his body brought back to the house the night before his funeral, which was, I understand, was done many, many years ago in Cayman, but I think it had been a while since something like that had been done. And whilst people were initially a bit shocked by the sight of the Dodge, as I lovingly referred to him, lying in state in our living room, I think they realised that it was very healing. It was very supportive for me and for his family, in particular his mother, Miss Mavis Morris, from part of the big Bell Kruger MacField clan, and for our friends as well. It was very healing. It was very supportive, and again, we had a wonderful service for his funeral. But recently, people haven't been able to do the traditional things. People aren't able to call to the homes of those who have suffered a loss prior to the funeral. Thereafter, we've not been able to have the gatherings. Numbers at funerals are restricted. And we just recognise that it's very difficult. And we really want just to have this discussion, to bring it out into the open, raise awareness, and really, be mindful of others who may be suffering and how we can best help them. So that's essentially why we're here today.
Thank you, Ms. Dipna. And on behalf of our station and our listeners, we're sorry for your loss. And although it's 8 months is some period of time, it's definitely a process. And and hence the conversation today, because we do have a number in the community who have experienced a similar loss, or any kind of loss for that matter. Grief covers quite a number of different hats. Dr. McGill, do we have you on the line?
Yes, I'm very much here, and I did want to add some things to that because I am not originally from Cayman, but my experience since I've been here is that the loss of a loved one is generally an intensely social time, and in the typical Caymanian situation, quite alongside the wake, there is the business of people visiting the home and the food arriving. The family literally doesn't have to cook for weeks on end because people come over with their gifts of food and company and just being there for the person who is grieving, and that was kind of an interesting experience. You're literally able to feed an army and anybody else coming over because it's just part of Cayman kind to just, you come in, you bring a dish, you bring something, and then there is a funeral, which after the wake, and there's a funeral, which is another intense social time because after the proceedings there is a gathering again, and then afterwards the checking in with the family who has lost the person, and that continues. That support continues until, well, you're forced to get back to quote unquote normal, which means going back to work or going back to routines, the typical grieving situation. I don't know if Rhonda has anything to contribute to that, because, like I say, I'm not originally Caymanian. Timna and Rhonda have been here a lot longer than I have.
Miss Rhonda,
Yes.
Miss Rhonda, if I could very kindly ask, we do have to go to a quick commercial break. Before we actually go over to you to kind of bring a bit more depth of experience there on the formalities that take place here, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll hear from both Miss Rhonda and Mr. Delaney. Be back with more talk today right after this.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
Obey the laws and wear the gauze. Protect your jaws from septic paws. Stay clean, Cayman, with hand sanitizer from $3.25, 10 surgical masks for $9.99, and 2 packs of KN95 masks for $6.99. Wholesale pricing available at all 5 Liquor for Less locations: Shedden Road, North Church Street, Savannah, Northside, and the McClendon Drive Airport location. Don't miss the incredible lockdown price markdown and manager specials exclusively at Liquor for Less. Hundreds of fine, starting from cases of ice cold below wholesale prices, and save $9 off liters. Prices so low we can't say it on the radio. Liquor for Less enforces the wearing of masks and social distancing while in store, and encourage other preventative measures to help stop the spread of COVID-19, such as consistent hand washing and only leaving home for essential purposes.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences, and I've read the press releases, and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Social distancing. Well, that means you're to keep a distance of 3 to 6 feet away from the person next to you. Or in layman's term, if you can see the color of the eye next to you, you're too close. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information: the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we are touching on a very sensitive topic today, and that is a topic of grief and managing grief during the current pandemic of COVID-19. We are joined today with Ms. Dimpna Carton from the HSA, Dr. McGill, a psychiatrist with the HSA, life coach Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, and therapist Mr. Terry Delaney. Before the break, we were briefly touching on the overall topic and talking about how the changes in social distancing and the overall just complete social changes have changed the way in which we handle death and handle funerals and wakes. We were briefly touching on the cultural components of it, and that is the social nature of the post issues of dealing with death. And we had to briefly cut off Miss Rhonda Cornwall. So we will put the hot mic back on Miss Rhonda. Miss Rhonda, you still there?
Yes, thank you, Raymond. And good morning, everyone. Afternoon, sorry. So as Dr. McGill shared, part of the mourning process here in the Cayman Islands is just the family support, the family and friend support that really come together and it's given to families when there's a loss. And it's almost an opportunity for reconnecting and almost sort of a reunion of sorts for families and friends when there's a loss. So there's a huge gathering that happens afterwards. And now, in our current restrictions, this poses a challenge for families because they're not able to grieve and mourn the way that they're used to. So a lot of what, Dr. McGill shared, the food, everything, the coming together, all of that is just really part of that, allowing families to express what they're going through and have the support to do that. We really are in times where we have to be creative in terms of how we're looking at how families mourn.
Now, when we talk about that mourning process, that obviously involves a sense of a closure, the ability to say goodbye to your loved one. And now with the social distancing, there's almost there's some degree of closure, but there's not anywhere near the closure from before. And I guess that's the whole purpose of today's conversation, is to really tackle how people can best manage the absence of that closure. Mr. Delaney. Good afternoon. Hello, Mr. Delaney, you still on the line with us?
Yes, still here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, good. Yes, the closure is a significant portion of moving along in the grief process. It sometimes can be misunderstood. It doesn't necessarily close the grief process because the process goes on.
Yes.
But it is a really important piece. And part of that is the funeral concept, the fact that the person's body is in the casket, the fact that the casket is interned in the earth. And we don't have that now. It's done. Obviously, it's done. But we're not physically present. We're not part of it. It's one of the huge changes in the social aspect. And my thinking is, anytime a human need is not being taken care of, we actually have to take care of it ourselves. And I love the fact that Ms. Rhonda brought up the concept of creativity, because that's probably what we're challenged with more now than anything. And it's a way to create a way to meet our own need for that closure. Now, many people I've worked with in the past have chosen to plant a tree as a memory of the individual lost. And that's something we could do now. Hopefully we're on property where, whether it be a strata or if it be a privately owned land, that we can go out and take a seedling and plant it in honor of the person we've lost. It's not as intense because we don't have the community there, but we can think of the community. We can include them in our minds and our hearts as we do our own sense of closure, whether that be planting a tree, or some people will take an item that they remember, a small gift they may have gotten, or even a photograph of the individual who's gone and literally dig a little hole and bury that. Have a service of your own, or maybe with a family member or two, to be able to still have the idea, even though it's hugely different from when the whole community can be there. So that's a couple thoughts about ways that people can get some of that closure.
Terry, I think that's a great idea. And, the great thing about Cayman as well is that we have many gardeners amongst us, many people who are very green fingers and who love to be out, planting things and growing things. And to speak a little bit of a neighbour of mine, Mrs. Rankin, who lost her husband, McCarty, just a few months ago. And in fact, he was able to have, the traditional funeral and the support. But, I have been checking on her on a regular basis because we're now, two, recently new widows on the road and just offering her support. And, I was talking to her last week and admiring the work that she's done in her garden. And what she's done is she's built this fabulous stone wall that is almost a miniature replica of the old slave wall in Bodentown that stretches across the back of my house. And while I was complimenting her on this, and she, she's truly proud of her work, and she burst out laughing and she says, well, I could have sat down and cried, but instead I built a wall. And, it should have given her a tremendous focus, and it was such a productive, and it's so encouraging to see that, she's experiencing something for the first time. She's on her own, and for many people out there who are living by themselves but going through this wretched experience, which is a part of life, it's a realistic part of life. And there's, as the ad says, there's no normal or right or wrong way to do grief. It's about what works for you. But I think it's about encouraging people to stay connected and encouraging others to connect with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Rim, if I could also add, it's Rhonda.
Yes, Rhonda.
I'm actually, my main niche actually as a life coach is grief coaching. I'm actually a certified grief coach. And one of the things that I have noticed with my clients as well is, it's being able to incorporate the legacy of your loved ones, to be able to, for you to be able to move, on as well, and to move forward in healthy ways. Because I feel like sometimes what happens with persons, when they've lost a loved one, is they feel like that individual, everything, the memories, everything has been lost. But in focusing on the things that, made that individual great, the things that they can incorporate into their lives as well, gives them a sense of just a connection again to their loved one, and being able to enrich their own lives. And I think that's something that in this time where we have, the limited ability to connect with our rest of our families and really have that closure, because of the, limited funeral services and all this kind of thing. This is something that people can do as well, is to start to think, okay, how can I incorporate the things that I loved about my loved one, during, this time, so that I don't feel so, isolated to some extent too. Sure. And you can kind of strengthen, yourself by doing things like that.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense there. We've also seen some social media funeral services that have occurred as well, and the streaming of to allow family members to connect to the grieving family members and the mourners at the graveside. On that note, we really quickly have to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I wouldn't mind touching on topics of guilt, closely linked to the absence of closure at times. But for those who may be experiencing feelings of guilt for their inability to actually be present for their loved ones. I'll be back with more talk today right after this commercial break.
Whether you need it to cool off after a workout or make a cup of coffee in the morning, your tap water is there when you need it. It's also been there to help our community prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Water Authority Cayman works hard around the clock to ensure high-quality drinking water is there when you need it. To learn about your water's journey from source to tap, visit the Water Authority's Facebook page.
International Lighting, Eds Plaza, North Songway, is now open for delivery Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition to light fixtures, ceiling fans, rugs, sheet sets, and household items, International Lighting now has a selection of masks, alcohol, and gloves for sale. For delivery, please call 945-7121, 916-8211, 916-3553, or 949-5141.
Fluff and Fold in Camana Bay is open. You've been carrying a heavy load for some time. Take a break and let Fluff and Fold carry the load. Dry cleaning and wash and fold laundry service with all necessary measures to ensure the safety of our staff and customers. Contact free pickup and drop off at their Camana Bay location. Give yourself a little bit of freedom. Fluff and Fold in Camana Bay. Open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
For more information, call Fluff and Fold at 943-5833.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Has being quarantined at home have you looking at your living space differently? Well, Tomlinson Furniture is now offering free island-wide deliveries and phone consultations to help you design a comfortable living space. For inspiration and ideas, browse the Tomlinson Furniture and Mattress Gallery Facebook page, Tomlinson Furniture Cayman on Instagram, or website at tomlinsonfurniture.ky. Open from 9:30 a.m. for phone consultations and orders. Call 949-5383. Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery. Free delivery island-wide.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Essential staff, police officers, immigration, customs, doctors, nurses, first responders, they are essential staff. So if you got to ask, then you ain't. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Cayman kind.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we are touching on the sensitive topic of dealing and managing grief during the current pandemic. And if I can just read a quick little quote here from, I guess, an online source that I dug up before the show. Under normal circumstances, we turn to others in our lives for support, and this echoes what Dr. McGill said earlier. We might gather with friends and family to cry, share happy memories, and offer care support to one another. The coronavirus pandemic has wreaked havoc on many of these rituals. This inability to engage in traditions that support the grieving process can make it that much more difficult to cope. Factors associated with the nature of the virus itself can also complicate the emotions that people experience. Now, before the break, we were discussing the topic of closure and the importance of becoming creative with it. And Mr. Terry Delaney mentioned the prospects of planting a seed or even utilizing a token that reminds you of your loved one to have your own personal service. Now, very quickly, if we could talk about the topic of guilt in this process with the current pandemic and social distancing, whereas families may have in the past, very recent past, been able to be with their loved ones during their final moments, whether it be in the hospital or at home, those can't happen, at least right now, and for the foreseeable future. Doctors, life coaches, therapists, what can we say to the topic of guilt in this and helping those manage their guilt through this process? If we can, Dr. McGill, since we haven't heard from you in a few minutes.
Well, I'm going to hand that over to Terry.
Okay. Terry, you're now holding the football.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate it. I have to make a statement to open this portion, and some people think I'm extreme in this. I probably am, but I totally believe and know the fact. Guilt is the single, only 100% unproductive emotion that human beings have. Mm-hmm. It provides us with nothing. It is a heavy burden to carry. It is obviously a negative, and I think we need to take a close look at why we have any sense that we think is guilt or that we know is guilt. We must get rid of it as soon as we can. Many people will feel so-called guilty. I prefer the concept. They regret the fact they didn't get something said to the person they love before they died. There is in Gestalt psychology, there's a very, very powerful exercise known as the unsent letter. And I think we need to think about that if we don't have that opportunity to say important things to someone we love before they die. We can sit down and write down the things we wanted to say. It is not as effective as having been able to have that conversation, but to be able to get it out is so incredibly important. That's what I think will change things from the concept of guilt to the reality of responsibility. I am responsible for how I feel. I am responsible to let the person know, because if we have the right belief systems, we know they're going to hear us. They're going to read the letter. They're going to know what we're referencing. And I think it's so important, and we can also do some of that in how we represent the person to others. To speak highly of their quality is very, very important. And I think for us to carry some of the person with us in this conversation so far, I've thought of my brother Jim, who died of cancer 3 years ago. And one of the things I carry of Jim is his sense of humor and his ability to tell a story. And I relish the moments I get the chance to say, well, you know, there's an interesting story my brother Jim, God love him, used to say, and I can share the story. And that to me is carrying Jim with me as I go. And we can all do that in some way, as the example of the wall that was built, which I thought was so beautiful and so personal. So we can definitely deal with getting rid of guilt. And I think we need to do that.
And Terry, I think you actually speak to two things. I think, you know, part of guilt, right, is people feeling that they could have done more. But for people that are dealing with someone who's currently very sick, and that you know that perhaps, you know, they're in the final stages of an illness, they're not going to recover, then this is the opportunity to look on that time as a really special time and a really magical time, and to know that everything that you do to that person, you do it with absolute joy and love. Now, it doesn't take away some of the frustrations and some of the challenges, but you almost begin to experience a living bereavement. And this is something that I found with Roger, that because I'd seen such a change in this man, such a change in this wonderful, strapping, tall, dark, handsome, humble Caymanian who, reached the point where he wasn't able to do the things he did for himself, but he still had a tremendous sense of humour at the end of the day. And, he slapped hard on that thigh when something was funny, and as his family well know, he loved his belly, and Roger loved to eat. So we had some time to, I would say, prepare me more than him for that loss, and so therefore, at the end, I didn't feel that there was anything more I could have done. But I think also what's really important, it is about talking about it. It's about, the preparation for this and to share it with others and to reach out to people that you feel you can connect with, and whether that be a family member or a friend or if you have a carer in the home, try and be honest about things that you feel that you can do or that you can't do. We'll always feel sad that people are missing out on things. I mean, that is, and as Terry says, with his brother Jim, and with Roger. But I have so many great stories about Roger's life that, even at the weekend I was telling the story to someone and we were killing ourselves laughing. And, they said, isn't it wonderful that you can laugh? But I know that, I have this belief in my heart that, he was cared for and he knew he was loved. So it's about letting people know that they're loved before it's too late. Don't be frightened to express it. Don't be frightened to share it, because you can never get it back. But what you can get back is the memory of all the good that you did for that person. And there was a second thing, but I've lost what that was.
Thank you, Miss Nimna. Miss Rhonda, since giving your background with in life coaching, with this particular topic, anything you'd like to add on that topic of managing guilt or regret in that respect?
Yeah, I always like to encourage, persons, whatever emotion that they're dealing with, is to start by acknowledging that it exists, that's the way that they feel. That gives them an opportunity to face it, and deal with it. So going back to echoing what has already been said, find someone that you trust, that you can be open with. Because a lot of times people will suppress these things, especially when we're talking about, guilt. There may be shame involved in that. And so they may not feel comfortable telling everyone about that. But, find someone that you trust, that you can talk about, what you're feeling, what your thoughts are. And it gives you the ability to then really face those negative thoughts and decide whether or not there's truth to these things and what to do about it. But you can't deal with anything that you don't acknowledge. So I think it's just the starting point is to always just acknowledge what you're feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the things I want to say is sometimes family relationships may not have been very good before, and other family members can impose a load of guilt on the primary caregiver of the person who died, or the primary family member who was involved with them, or the family member who did not connect very much with the loved one that died. And I want to say that that's not the time to be loading anybody with feelings of guilt about what they didn't do or could have done better. It's a time when each person is going to grieve, and the reality is that different people grieve in different ways. So some people go through a tremendous amount of anger and blaming as part of their grief cycle, and that can be pretty destructive to others who feel that they did not completely fulfill what they maybe could have. It calls for a lot of generosity of spirit, this whole thing of grieving, because when it is not handled very well, or when there were factors that makes the loss extremely difficult, then it can become complicated grief, which then drags on and impairs persons who are grieving to the point where they're not coping at work, they're not coping at home, they can't go into the house, they can't see things belonging to the person, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that definitely complicates everything when you start throwing the anger into the mix. On that note, can we take a quick commercial break? We have to go to our 1 p.m. headline news. When we come back, if we could jump on the topic of the anticipatory grief and those who are facing that potential issue coming up in their lives. I'll be back with more talk today right after this commercial break.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news. Access. Information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Officers from the RCIPS Traffic and Roads Policing Unit have noticed a significant increase in the number of vehicles that are not only exceeding the speed limits but also driving in a reckless manner on the roadways. On May 8th, 15 tickets were issued by officers for speeding, and officers will continue to look out for speeding as well as other driving offenses going forward. The penalty for speeding is $20 CI every mile over the limit that you are recorded going when stopped by an officer. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, new coronavirus clusters have been reported in Wuhan City, where the virus first emerged, and the northeastern province of Jilin in China. Wuhan reported 5 new cases today after confirming its first case since April 3rd on Sunday. Authorities said the small cluster of cases were all from the same residential compound. And France has cautiously begun to lift its lockdown, with millions back in work after 8 weeks of restrictions. Shops are reopening, many pupils are returning to primary schools, and people will not need travel certificates when they leave home. But some parts of the country, including the capital Paris, remain under tighter controls, with the country split into green and red zones. The government has faced criticism, however, on how it handled the crisis. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we have on the line Ms. Timna Carton from the HSA, Dr. McGill, psychiatrist at the HSA, life coach Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, and therapist Mr. Terry Delaney. And we've been discussing the very sensitive topic of managing grief during the current pandemic, and how many are finding ways to cope with the new ways in which we're handling funeral services and grief overall. Before the break, we were discussing the feelings of guilt and how people can manage those areas of those very harsh emotions. Now, with regards to anticipatory grief and that term, Miss Rhonda, if I could put the mic on you on this one, and what we can say to those who are experiencing, who are fearing a death in the family in the near future or with a loved one, and how we can manage that.
Yeah, definitely. When someone is anticipating that there is going to, loss is going to occur, it's a golden opportunity to, we talked about earlier, having unfinished business that sometimes happens because of a lack of the being able to, celebrate and have the memorial service and all of that. Well, when you are in a position where, you are expecting, someone to pass, it gives you the opportunity to say anything that may need to be said, to deal with any unfinished business. A lot of times two people will, start to experience, the grief, the feelings of loss, because they're expecting that. But instead of focusing, I think, on the negatives, it's a time for persons they can deal with that type of grief by really focusing on the things and the opportunity that they have. They still have their loved one with them, to make the most out of that, have the conversations that, you may not have had in the past that you would want to. We talked about basically not living with regrets, right? So this is an opportunity to really put that in place to make sure that once that loved one has passed, you don't have to live with the regret of, I wish I had said or done something differently. So, I think that's something that you can always encourage persons who are facing the loss of a loved one. But I also want to highlight too, that persons may also be feeling this type of grief over different types of losses as well. It's not, just a lot of loved ones, but, people are losing a lot during this season that we're in. And so they're, maybe anticipating the loss of income, or they may have already had that, or, the loss of different things. And so, I think we also have to be mindful of that when we're dealing with people and talking about grief, that there are different types of losses that people are facing and would need support with.
Excellent point. I'm not sure who had the rooster in the background, but it was you, Miss Rhonda. It was a unique fill-in for Talk Today.
I don't. They randomly come by here, yes, could be.
I have to try to find some humor in it's a very serious conversation we're having here, so I have to try to find some humor in that. But Ms. Rhonda, you make some excellent points there. You've touched on the topic of the other forms of loss. If you just hold that thought for just a moment, does anyone else have any comment on the assist those who are facing a current challenge with the loss of a loved one, or potential loss of a loved one in their life?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to preparation and plans, right? And sort of coming from a very practical perspective. Many people, there has been a loss of an income, there's a loss in support, there's a loss in your emotional support, there's a loss in your physical support. I mean, these are all very real things that you think about when, you're in those stages of knowing that your loved one, and if it's a partner, an intimate relationship, I mean, these are things that are certainly top priority in your thoughts. And, you have to think, okay, how can I best address this? How can I deal with that when it comes? Because these are things that are going to come. And it's all, again, about preparation for this new way of life. And so rather than everything hits you at an onslaught at the end, when you have to make so many other preparations and deal with so much and, and go back to work after 10 days or whatever, which is just completely inadequate. And I really hope that's something that is addressed at some point, because it's just not long enough. And speaking personally, in my own role as a community psychiatric nurse, yes, I put on a very brave front, and I'm out there in the community, and some of my patients knew that Roger was very ill and was dying, and in fact knew that he had died, and even made effort, to be at his funeral and to come by the house, because that's the Cayman, that's the community that we have. But for the people that didn't know that, there's no awareness, and you just have to get on with it, because of course we are professionals, and we have a sense of responsibility and duty. But I think it's something that needs to be seriously considered by the government at some point in addressing 10 days compassionate leave as a bereavement leave. But yeah.
Dimna brings up some very important points. And one of the things I wanted to jump in here and say is that anticipatory grief can be difficult, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, because one might not be able to be there with one's loved ones towards the last moments. And in fact, the whole thing of somebody being transferred to hospital, maybe they were ill before, but they were coping at home. They get transferred to hospital, and they get transferred to an intensive care unit. If they test COVID positive, they go into a special unit, and there is a limit to the amount of contact that you can have. And in situations like that, we are very dependent on electronic communication to continue our contact with loved ones, which brings into the whole picture the nursing staff, the staff that care for the patient in hospital, and the important role they can play in the lives of loved ones in those circumstances, by just providing that help for the person to talk with persons, to if they actually have electronic tablets or so, to ensure that they do have these means for communication with their family members outside. So it can make a lot of difference to say those goodbyes far more graciously, or to tie up loose ends, which can be very difficult if people have left tangible things that they need to do for the last minute. Can be very, very difficult in these times.
That is challenging. When you're forced to wear the hat of practicality during a very emotional time, like managing or dealing with the impending potential death of a loved one. It definitely is a challenging time. Miss Rana, you briefly touched on the other forms of loss that we're experiencing, that people can experience, the resulting grief during this time. And I have a list here of just like the general things that people either fear losing or have lost already, and that's like job loss, financial anxiety, loss of safety, worrying about loved ones, the feelings of isolation, something as simple as changes in your daily habits and routines, and the loss of that routine that we cling to every day, plans and events, those who have had weddings canceled, those who have missed the birth of grandkids or even their kids. There for that short period we had the stoppage on fathers coming to the rooms, clashes with family members and protecting yourself, worries about how to pay your rent, utilities, sadness over the just general state of affairs, and fears for the future. I mean, those are all areas of just a loss of that security that we're so reliant upon.
Yeah. And a lot of it too is, loss of freedoms that we experienced and enjoyed, right? And, it's putting a lot of, I think, pressure on people, and they're not, I think sometimes we don't understand that our reaction to these losses, is grief. And we are experiencing grief because, these things that were meaningful to us are no longer either available or they're in restrictive forms. And I think sometimes we get frustrated and don't understand that, our reactions to these things, is the grieving process. And just being able to take a step back and recognize that, okay, this is what's happening to me. I think it can bring a level of comfort to people as well, because, sometimes we get so caught up in all these different emotions. And that's the thing with grief as well, is that you can experience different emotions at the same time. So one minute, you might be angry, next minute, you're sad, and you're kind of can't figure out what's happening with you. And, it's good to have those conversations, to talk through what you're feeling, what you're thinking, so that you can, realize that grief is a normal reaction to loss. And I think if we understood that, then, we wouldn't be as, I think, panicked by our responses to, a lot of the losses that we're going through. And then it puts us back in the frame of mind to be able to do something about, where we find ourselves.
And for those who, because the range of emotions you just brought up, I'm pretty sure everybody in this community is feeling every single emotion you just said on an hourly basis. For those who have either the challenge with communicating their emotions or a challenge even worse of not having someone to communicate that to, how do you act? And they're not quite sure how to address these things. What will you say to them to help them take that step back? And sorry, Ms. Rana.
I was wondering if that was a general question.
Yeah, it is. It is general, just from a standpoint of just in general, like those who are suffering, and they don't want to acknowledge it, they don't want to accept it. They're going through the daily emotions.
Yeah. How do we deal with it?
Yeah.
Well, it's simple, really. It's about it's about observing people in your community. It's about being aware of what's going on in your community. It is simply about being our brother and our sister's keepers. And that doesn't mean that you have to interfere, but there are some subtle things that we can do on a regular basis. If you're walking past someone's home, you just heel into them, and particularly at the minute, we're obviously, very aware of social distancing. But you check in with people in simple ways, and then if you can start a conversation with. It can be about the weather. It can be about the current situation and how are you coping with that. And then if you know that there has been a loss, you can slide that into the conversation. You can say, it must be even more difficult at this time because you're here by yourself. You've lost. How are you doing with that? Are you managing okay? And the reality is that people, when you do it in that way, they're so much more open and responsive, and actually very often want the opportunity to talk, because I think this is one of the biggest problems with bereavement, is that a lot of people don't want to talk to the person who's bereft, who find it uncomfortable because there's a fear of upset, a fear of saying the wrong thing, or they don't know if the person is going to become so distressed that they can't cope with that. They don't know how to manage it. But very often in my experience, and in my own experience, it's more disappointing when people don't ask, and people that should know better. So you have to ask, and don't be frightened to ask. It's simple. As we say, this is a part of life's great circle. We are born and we die. And from, the day that we are born, we're all dying. It's simply a question of when and how, but hopefully the intervening period is a good one. And you make the very best of that, but you must support people. And don't be frightened to talk about the death, and to bring that person's name up, to reference their name. I mean, I'm very lucky in my social group that, a lot of my friends and neighbours and colleagues will say, make reference to Roger. Oh, do you remember when Roger did this? Or, do you remember that? Do you remember why did he plant that Nam duck tree at the very front of the garden? Yeah, that's a good point, because people are stealing the Nam ducks, And we have laughs, so, don't be frightened. Please talk to people who have lost loved ones. Don't be frightened of it.
Thank you for that. We do have to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll get some final points in this segment. And I guess if we can get some general points for those to help with whether it be practicing self-care or the primary ways. I know that there's varying ways that everyone copes with grief. But if we can just touch on all those points again and remind our listeners of the various mechanisms that they can take on themselves or that might be available to them through social services when we get back from this break. Back with more talk today right after this.
This is a public service announcement from Radio Cayman, your community radio station.
Curfew restrictions remain in place until 5 a.m. on the 15th of May. The soft curfew or shelter-in-place regulations on Grand Cayman remains in place between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday. The hard curfew or the full lockdown is for everyone except essential services personnel. That remains in operation here on Grand Cayman and Cayman Rack between the hours of 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. nightly Monday to Sunday. Also, you can exercise up to 90 minutes between the hours of 5:15 a.m. and 7 p.m. daily, Monday to Saturday. No exercise is permitted on Sunday during the period of curfew. This relates to Grand Cayman only, as these restrictions have been removed from the sister islands. Now, a full 24-hour hard curfew as it relates to our beaches. Access to the beaches, the public beaches that is on Grand Cayman, remains in place through to Friday, the 15th of May, 2020 at 5 a.m. This means that no access to public beaches on Grand Cayman at any time until that date is allowed. This stops any person from entering on, walking, swimming, snorkeling, fishing, or engaging in any type of marine activity on any public beach here on Grand Cayman. Breach of the curfews carries a penalty of $3,000 and imprisonment for 1 year or both.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up-to-date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
It's time to stay steady in the summer and be ready for the fall. Summer 2020 classes begin on May 11th, and there has never been a more opportune time for you to invest in your future with online classes at UCCI. Do your part to keep our island safe and stay home Cayman while furthering your educational goals. Continue or start your success story today by visiting ucci.edu.ky/myucci to find out more about the enrollment process. Call 623-8224 or email info@ucci.edu.ky to learn more.
You know, when we look back at our teens, quite often we come to appreciate our parents' efforts to keep us safe. What was restrictive then becomes sound reasoning as an adult. The current curfews are much the same. Temporary restrictions for our community with your long-term health and welfare in mind. We will mature through these challenging times and emerge stronger. Stay responsible now so that our future can be bright. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman.
Fluff and Fold in Camana Bay is open. You've been carrying a heavy load for some time. Take a break and let Fluff and Fold carry the load. Dry cleaning and wash and fold laundry service with all necessary measures to ensure the safety of our staff and customers. Contact free pickup and drop off at their Camana Bay location. Give yourself a little bit of freedom. Fluff and Fold in Camana Bay. Open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
For more information, call Fluff and Fold at 943-5833.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we're just wrapping up our first segment, discussing the very sensitive topic of managing grief during the current pandemic. And we've been joined throughout this past segment with Miss Dibna Carton from the HSA, Dr. McGill, a psychiatrist at the HSA, life coach Miss Rhonda Cornwall, and therapist Mr. Terry Delaney. Dr. McGill, since we haven't heard from you in a little while, if we could start with you, we want to talk and just give our listeners as robust approach as we can, ways in which they can cope with grief during these current times.
Okay, so we've covered some of these things already.
We have.
In terms of keeping in touch with others and doing things. There are some, if it becomes difficult, then it's a good idea to reach out to a health professional So that's where a psychologist, psychotherapist, or even a psychiatrist comes in. And this can be something that you do if you find that you're not able to shake the guilt. You're not able to stop feeling depressed all the time. You know, it's not that it's coming and going, or it's an extremely long period of intense grief. Then the person might need some additional help in terms of talk therapy or actual medications just to support their mental state as they go through grief, because I need to make the point that you have to go through the grief. It may take a long time, but you do have to go through the process. And so actually making contact with a professional can be a very useful thing, especially if you are isolated or you find that your usual supports aren't helping out to the extent that you need help.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Delaney, anything you wish to add to that on mechanisms that people can use to help cope with the grief, whether it be through loss of a loved one or through the general loss of anything they have going on in this day and age?
Yes, to kind of follow through on what Dr. McGill was just referencing, talking with a professional over a WhatsApp, video call or whatever method is definitely very different than sitting in their office and talking with them. One of the things I've become very aware of is how much it does help. Clients at first I will verbally accept the reality, this is very different, it's not what we've done in the past. But surprisingly quick, it falls into a rhythm, it works, it does provide that kind of help. It sounds too technical, almost like you're on TV or something like that, and in a way you are, but there's still that personal connection, there's that confidentiality, there's what's needed is there. So if someone feels they need to get in touch with a professional, please do so, because we can still help through these video calls. One other thing I want to reference is I've always seen grief as a series of links in a chain. What I mean by that is if I experience a loss today, in some manner, it's going to trigger losses from the past. They're almost accumulative. And I will think about someone else I've lost, and I will think about... And another thing we have to accept as reality, because it is not psychologically inappropriate at all. When there is a loss of life, it's very normal for human beings at some point to wonder who might be next. And it feels very cold to be thinking about who is ill or who is very aged or who is... But it happens. Do not dwell on it, but it happens. A part of that also is the thought of, when will I go? And that's a very, very, very powerful concept that needs to be worked on, perhaps with a pastor, perhaps with a therapist or counselor or a coach or a psychiatric nurse or a psychiatrist, those of us involved today. But, try to not dismiss it as just a silly, fleeting thought, but realize it's a very, very powerful thing that does need to be dealt with and not swept under the rug.
Thank you. Ms. Rhonda, anything you wanted to add to the coping methods that people can use in the face of impending grief or dealing with grief?
Yeah, definitely. I think just following up with what Dr. Delaney just shared as well is, I think one of the things that we have to acknowledge is that grief isn't a topic that a lot of us want to talk about or even comfortable talking about. And so I'm glad that we've had this discussion here today because, you can't, and I've said it before, you're not going to deal with something that you don't acknowledge or something that you fear. And so there's an element of courage to approach the topic in itself, and then to give yourself permission, to talk about what you're feeling and how you're feeling, so that you can kind of work through it as well. So, my encouragement always is to acknowledge where you find yourself, what you're feeling, find someone that you trust that you can talk through it with, and be kind to yourself, because we're not in normal times. These are extraordinary times that we find ourselves in. And so if we are finding ourselves reacting in ways that we haven't before, we need to give ourselves grace and give the people that, surround us, the people that we interact as well with, grace as well, because, they may also be experiencing grief and need that support as well. On a practical side, one of the ways to actually deal and process through your emotions and stuff as well that works really effectively is journaling as well. So, finding a way of putting what you're thinking out of your mind onto paper, so that you can, one, see it and acknowledge it. And then it's always a great way of going back and looking at where you've been and where you are now, because that can also encourage you that you're not stuck where you are and, feel like you're not moving forward in positive ways.
Thank you. That was a great little tip there. And to echo what you said, I am thoroughly uncomfortable in this conversation, so I can totally appreciate where people have that general sense of uncomfortability when it comes to talking about grief. And Ms. Dimna, given your recent experience with regards to self-care and the element of coping and practicing that self-care, were there any tips that you could offer the community from your own experiences?
Well, about accepting your situation and allowing yourself to go into that. So, I would find that once I was back at work and I was dealing with it, and from the outside it appeared fine, but sometimes at a weekend I would find myself very upset, and I didn't put any pressure on myself. I allowed myself to experience that sadness, to really go into it, to fall into it, knowing that I would be able to come out the other side. But it was going to take some time. It was going to take that weekend and many, many weekends more to come. And stay in touch with friends, be honest. And, we've talked about how often, it raises the issue of your own mortality. And certainly, when you've lost someone that you've been very close to, you often feel like rudderless. I felt like a little sort of vessel out on an open, uncharted water. And I really felt a bit purposeless. I thought, what is my purpose now in life? What am I going to do? And you slowly, things happen in life, right? Naturally, things happen in life. And, we had the earthquake in January. And, sure. I, had to address things there. And, it was called upon by, hazard management. And thank you, Danny, to speak about the psychological impact of that. And that really just threw me back into a bit of a reality again. Okay, you know what? This could have been devastating for our community, for me. But there is life here. There is hope. And I looked at the beauty in my life and all the beautiful things that have happened to me. And even, yes, there's tremendous sadness attached to a loss, but there's also a tremendous beauty that goes with having had that experience. And I know my life is richer for it. It's definitely not poorer. But, so those are the sort of things. And obviously keeping in contact with friends and feeling well supported, and people who knew me very well to know that, well, didn't come across as normally as cheery or, as I normally would be. Okay, something not right there. They would look out for that. But, it's just about the simple consideration of we need to take care of each other. And I also just want to say that photographs and videos, so for anybody who's currently preparing for the loss of a loved one, as many photographs and videos that you can take of that person that is, obviously if the person is comfortable with it and they can still express themselves, they're absolutely wonderful reminders of that individual when they have passed, and to have stories of them, laughing, cracking jokes, going about their normal everyday affairs was, has brought a lot of reassurance to me. But I think that your scripture reading prior to the show was uncannily timely today, and I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but
No,
it referenced.
That was the universe aligning itself.
Well, that was wonderful. I really enjoyed that, even though it did make me feel a little bit sad. But, the final line was, Jesus saying to, I think it was John, the apostle, who will take care of her when I'm gone? Who will take care of any of us when we're gone? Who's going to look after you? Who's going to look after, the boy down the street? Who's going to look after the husband? Who's going to look after the wife? It's each of us. We all have a role in this. And, it's simply just being mindful and being simply caring and not being afraid to ask someone how they're doing and making reference to the person that they've lost. And, there's a number of resources in the community that we have at this time. If people feel that they need a little bit extra support, they feel a bit overwhelmed, they don't want to burden, because as we've talked earlier, there's tremendous burden on the community and in people's lives just now with a lot of fears for the future. But we do have resources here. We have the mental health helpline, which is 1-800-534-6463, and that is operational Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It is run by professional counsellors and therapists at the TCC, the Cayman Counselling Centre. We have, resources like Terry and Rhonda. We have Alexandra Stewart as well, who's another counsellor in the community who can be reached on 925-4804. We cannot forget our pastors and our churches. They're a tremendous sense of support to people, and, don't be frightened to reach out to them. There's also an organisation called Light After Loss, which is a foundation that was set up by Dr. Annette Stevenson, and it was simply to deal with the loss of mothers who may have had a pregnancy loss. And if you type in Light After Loss, you'll be able to find the Facebook page and, in fact, all the resources that are there. And just on a note regarding the mental health helpline, I wanted to give a special word of thanks, because I haven't had the opportunity, to the Cayman Counselling Centre, to Judy Seymour and Dr. Catherine Whitaker, and to EAP, Cindy Blakaitis, who have been so supportive in establishing the mental health helpline and actually running it with their brilliant cadre of staff. And as you know, the line was set up with the help of Flow and Digicel, and then because of generous donation of phones from Digicel, we were able to operate, in a mobile way, right, from home and so forth. So I just wanted to round off things by giving that word of thanks to our community. They have been brilliant.
Oh, Ms. Timpa, thank you so much for that. Any final thoughts from anyone before we go to our last commercial break?
I just want to remind persons that communicating with the helpline is also confidential. Your information is not going any further than the help you need. So feel free to call and utilize this fantastic resource that is there.
Dr. McGill, thank you so much for that very important final point. Everyone, thank you so much for joining Talk today. Ms. Dimna Carter with the HSA, Dr. McGill, a psychiatrist with the HSA, life coach Ms. Rhonda Cornwall, and therapist Mr. Terry Delaney. Thank you all for joining in for today's conversation.
And thank you very much to Radio Cayman, to you, Ray, to Dwayne, and to Susan, who were involved in the initial discussion about this show. Thanks a lot. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. You're most welcome. And again, to all of our listeners, very important conversation we just had today in response to grief and dealing with grief during the current pandemic. Grief is a normal response to loss, and the COVID-19 pandemic has really upended many aspects of the normal grieving process. Even if you have not yet experienced a direct loss, you may be experiencing some form of grief due to a number of other factors that are going on. Whether you're coping with a job loss, dealing with anticipatory grief, financial instability, loneliness, or that general sense of anxiety about the coronavirus. The emotional upheaval caused by this may trigger feelings of grief and loss. Don't fight it alone. Take care of yourself. Reach out to a loved one. Seek help from one of the mental health services on island and really take care of yourself during this time. On that note, we will take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have a very short open line period if you have anything to add to today's conversation or wish to discuss in general, and a reminder as well about the 2 p.m. press conference today. Be back with more Talk Today right after this.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
We are open. Visit Puritan Cleaners drive-through off Eastern Avenue, 8 a.m. till 3 p.m., Monday to Saturday. Our Elgin Avenue and Savannah locations will remain closed. However, your items can easily be transferred to Eastern Avenue. Just call us at 949-7104. That's 949-7104 with your request. Puritan Cleaners. You feel good when you look good.
For nearly 20 years, King Sports Center has been the heart of the Cayman fitness and wellness community. In order to ensure the welfare of all, we are temporarily closed until further notified by the Cayman Islands government that it is safe to reopen. During these trying times, we encourage everyone to maintain a healthy lifestyle, mind, body, and soul. We look forward to continuing providing you with world-class service in the very near future. Remain strong and continue to show the world the power of Cayman unity. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Join us every evening at 6:59 p.m. for the Time Check Salute in Cayman-kind style
with the blowing of the conch shell.
As the Cayman Islands community extends their appreciation to all of the frontline staff who are working to keep our islands safe and functioning during these challenging times.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Stay home. Leave Granny alone. Darling child, I mean, we can't be visiting our old people because they're more compromised. We gotta keep them safe. Anna got it now? If Anna want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up-to-date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, very important show today, discussing the concept of grief and how we've seen changes to how society and how we need to manage, how we cope with grief during the current pandemic. We do have open line here until 2 p.m. when we'll be having the going live to the press conference. Please, we do welcome you to join the conversation. Give us a call at 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. When I opened the show today, we were discussing how things have changed in the past 4 months. They were slow progressive changes, but dramatic change. When we looked at December 31st, 2019, and we were all ringing in the new decade and celebrating. We had so many great shows talking about how we were going to approach New Year's resolutions and economic, how we were going to save for the future in 2020. And this was going to be a year we look at savings and how dramatically that has all changed. We would love to hear from you as to how you have, what tricks and tips you have used and applied to your daily life to help cope with the current situation. What are your experiences been like with the slow reopenings of businesses as we start seeing the curbside pickups and increased deliveries? We've seen the increase of delivery cars on the road. They dominate our roadways now. So please do feel free to give us a call. We do have one caller on the line. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Dwayne.
No, this is Ray. How are you, sir?
I beg your pardon?
This is Ray, filling in for Sterling Dwayne today.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I am calling because I wanted to see if you guys can remind Donna or somebody out there in that when they have this thing today to ask the question about, when we had Hurricane Ivan and we had different hurricanes and any kind of crisis, they check on people's grocery stores and these places that sell things, they jack their prices up a lot. And I had an experience this morning where I went to one store for a certain item. It was $5.99, and another store it was $3.99, the same thing. So that means that a lot of these places they're jacking up prices, and they're taking advantage of this situation. So we need to get somebody in there to tell Mr. Premier or whoever that needs to have this information and that is happening.
Thank you for that. I mean, if we were finding price gouging, that would be extremely inappropriate in this time and day and age.
Price gouging, yeah, that's what they're doing. They're doing it, and it's doing it, and nobody's noticing it.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Hopefully
But have them check that out because it's really, like two places I went to today that when I looked at the prices, because within the last 2 weeks, the prices have gone up again.
Sure. We do expect some increase in the prices, but if people are taking advantage of the situation to dramatically increase their prices beyond what the market would typically allow, you're absolutely right. That is something that should be looked into. Thank you for bringing that. Thank you for that.
You can kind of remind them or something.
We will do. Thank you, caller. Appreciate that. Thank you. If anybody else in the community has experienced price gouging, we as well encourage you to give us a call and let us know about your experiences, and hopefully that does get addressed here in the near future during the press conferences with the various MLAs. So again, please do give us a call if you have any questions. A couple of changes that we've seen. We have Radio Cayman has been pleased to bring the new conch call. Hopefully our listeners have been able to hear it. Taking place at 6 p.m. or 6:59 p.m. Daily. And big shout out to Ray Banker and his daughter for producing those segments for us. The conch call is a tribute to all of the frontline workers out there in the community who have been diligently working to keep our islands moving forward. So we do want to give them a big shout out, and thank you to all of the callers who called in on Friday during the Frontline Friday segment. Another segment we have started to really pay tribute and show our gratitude to those frontliners. So often we're quick to criticize and quick to judge and quick to vent, but during these times we find how important it is to also be grateful to all of those individuals who are working diligently. On that note, we'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we have about 10 more minutes till we head over to the press conference. Be back with more Talk Today right after this.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
It's time to stay steady in the summer and be ready for the fall. Summer 2020 classes begin on May 11th, and there has never been a more opportune time for you to invest in your future with online classes at UCCI. Do your part to keep our island safe and stay home Cayman while furthering your educational goals. Continue or start your success story today by visiting ucci.edu.ky/myucci to find out more about the enrollment process. Call 623-8224 or email info@ucci.edu.ky to learn more.
The RCIPS, National Drug Council, and Radio Cayman are reminding you to stay home, refrain from social gatherings, and having parties during soft and hard curfew. Do your part, limit alcohol consumption, or stay sober. Do not undermine your immune system and health by misusing alcohol or any other substance. Remember, we are all in this together. Stay safe, stay home, stay alive, Cayman.
Hi, my name is Neraya LeBlanc. I am the minister and evangelist to the West Bay Church of Christ on 24 Batabano Road. I would love to take this opportunity to invite you to experience God's family at West Bay for yourself. We are a caring congregation that strongly believes in reaching out beyond ourselves to spread the gospel of Christ. We also take great pleasure in ministering to the needs of our people in our community. As God's called out kingdom people, we are in the business of transforming lives for the Master's use. For more information, you can visit our website at westbaycichurchofchrist.org or call us at 946-9294 or 917-1809.
Declaring the word of the Lord.
Cayman Islands Church of Christ presents Word of the Lord.
Word of the Lord, heard Sundays at 6:30 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Stay at home. Stay home. No gadabout'n. Stay your backside home. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Cayman kind.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. Just a few more minutes left in today's show. So we would like to take the opportunity to replay some of the segments from last week's Frontline Fridays. And again, a big shout out again to all of those workers who have been on the front lines for many weeks now, diligently just keeping our islands together. Ms. Susan.
The Prospect Red Bay Community Group would like to send a huge thank you to all of our frontline workers, those who work at the grocery stores, collect our garbage, healthcare workers, and those who keep us safe. These are our neighbors and friends. Thank you for all that you do.
Hi, this is Tom McCallum. As a Caymanian overseas in London, England, I am so proud of what's going on in Cayman. I could give a specific shout out to so many friends and family on the front line back in Cayman, but I simply want to thank everybody. With family back in Cayman, it would be easy to feel fear or fright around what could be happening to them, and yet I don't. I am so assured by everybody working on the front line, from the Premier on down, and just simply want to give thanks and gratitude to all. Much love from London.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Imperado, Chairman of the Board of Meals on Wheels Cayman Islands. I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy during these difficult times. I want to thank everybody who has helped Meals on Wheels fulfill our mission of feeding seniors throughout this crisis. From our wonderful volunteer base to our general manager, Jennifer West, and her assistant, Neri Campbell, to the many restaurants and members of the community who have made donations to us through free meals, through monetary donations, goods in kind, and through volunteerism, to our vendors who have helped us continue to feed seniors, and to the government for making this all happen. I want to thank you all for your underlying support, and we will be here even when this crisis is over. Thank you and be safe.
That was great. I'm glad we got to replay some of the segments from last Friday's Frontline Fridays. Now, you're not limited to just Fridays. If you ever want to call in and share your feel-good story of your experiences dealing with the front line, please do give us a call. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the developments from this past weekend. We did unfortunately see 3 test cases which came back as positive from one of our notable grocery stores, and got to give a lot of credit to the establishments who ran with it and really took the initiative to close their stores and get things cleaned up in time to ensure the welfare of all of their patrons, and even the other stores who then expanded their hours to deal with the influx of extra customers. These were frontline workers, grocery store attendants who, very unfortunate, thankfully asymptomatic, but regardless, still tested positive for COVID-19. We do wish them a speedy recovery as well, and for all those who are still battling with this. Just for a few more minutes, we'll be going over to our headline news. Again, we do welcome any callers to call in, share your experiences with the frontline workers, or how you are coping with the current pandemic, and any tricks you can offer your neighbor via Radio Cayman's airwaves to manage it. In talking with some of my neighbors and friends, I mean, fitness has been one of the primary ways I've seen a growth in WhatsApp chat groups that have really developed. So a lot of people taking to social media to keep in touch. Definitely have seen the change in social media temperament. Definitely a lot of anger is still out there in the community. People trying to wrestle with whether you want to call it grief or wrestle with the various changes that have happened in our community. Again, we had the caller earlier who did bring up the concern of price gouging. If you have experienced any price gouging yourself, please do give us a call and share, or you can always email our newsroom at rcnews, rcnews, @gov.ky. Excuse me. The other ways that I have seen and experienced, even from myself, my own standpoint, was to really delve into more of my hobbies. So guitar playing has become one of my more go-to scenarios. Cooking has been the other one. For those that know me, I do enjoy cooking. So I've actually started exploring and experimenting with a few new dishes here and there, and variations to my green juice concoctions. So whether you want to call it my soup teas is what I call them. I don't know what anyone else will call them. I basically take a variety of various teas and mix them together until I can't stomach it anymore. But that has been some of my go-tos. Definitely the fitness element has been the big one. Getting out in the community. Definitely getting myself back in better shape than I was back in December 31st. So my fitness goals for the year haven't tanked just yet. And thankfully, we've been staying busy. The remote working was a challenge I think for many, was a challenge grappling with the remote working standards. And it took a few weeks, but we're moseying along. Radio Command's been very steady, and big shout out to all of we're very much open for business, and we've had a steady stream. We've definitely seen the power of Radio Cayman in the community, and our local businesses have echoed that. Our advertisers that have come on board, sponsors from the community who have just stepped on to support our shows, knowing that we are still carrying our peak talk shows, carrying the press briefings. We have a full service news team who are still working extremely hard. Our technician still has to keep our airwaves up in the air. Miss Susan Watson hasn't left the studio in 6 weeks straight. They've created a bed for her in the neighboring room. Just so you all know, that she's not allowed to leave. Like, we actually set a policy. We don't want anybody risking her, so we've actually set up a spare room here at the station for Miss Susan. Because obviously a joke there, Miss Susan has been allowed to leave on a handful of occasions. We do have one caller on the line. Oh, I'm sorry about that. We ought to take a pause on the caller. We have to go to our 2 p.m. headline news. Thank you, Miss Susan. We'll be back with more talk today after this.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access to information. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team. Today's biggest news.
The Health Services Authority has expanded their testing capacity for COVID-19 screenings with the opening of 2 drive-through screening tests for frontline workers and expansion of their laboratory to increase the processing of samples in a day upon arrival at the HSA's drive-through screening area. The entire process takes approximately 5 minutes. All screening facilities are by appointment only, and businesses will be contacted by Public Health for specific appointment times. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Moises Escamilla May, a notorious Mexican gang leader, has died in prison after contracting coronavirus. 45-year-old Escamilla was the leader of a group within the feared criminal cartel Los Zetas. He was serving a 37-year sentence for organized crime, including his role in the decapitation of 12 people in Yucatan. And comedian Jerry Stiller, best known for his recurring role as George Costanza's father on TV's Seinfeld, has died at the age of 92. His actor son, Ben, has confirmed. Jason Alexander, who played George on Seinfeld, called him a great actor, a great man, and a lovely friend. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. We are just in the tail end of our show here as we await the start of the daily press conference today, or press briefing today. We did have one caller on the line, and they're going to be sending through a WhatsApp note just momentarily, so we'll await that to come through. Again, we do have open line right now. We always do welcome your stories, feedback, or any questions that you may have. Give us a call at 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. We should take this moment as well to say a big shout out to His Excellency the Governor, the recent testing negative that he has come back with. So we very happy for him on that one, and for the many that have tested negative. There's quite a few, and far more testing negative than positive. So so a big shout out again to His Excellency the Governor. Again, any calls about your experiences dealing with the current pandemic and how you've wrestled with the past 6 to 8 weeks. here of social changes and then the volume of changes that we've seen. We do welcome your feedback. Again, we had a caller earlier discussing his recent experiences with what he believed to have been price gouging, a very serious topic as well as we all grapple with the current economic climate. We don't want to be seeing that price gouging creeping into the community. So if you have your own experiences of that, and price gouging is the dramatic increase. We do expect some nominal increase in pricing just due to the way the market works. But if you have recognized any significant price gouging, please do share it with us. Give us a call at 1-800-534-8255, or you can always email our newsroom at rcnews@gov.ky. Excuse me. As far as the general safety precautions that you as our listeners are taking, we've seen the social distancing become the norm, the push for strong hygiene measures become more the norm. What are you doing as far as managing your excursions out for those of you who are back into work mode and slowly reintegrating back into work? What are you doing? What are your businesses doing? We do welcome your feedback as to what you're doing, and this is how we will always get through these things as a community, and that is when we're able to share the tricks and the tips that are making it successful on our end for our neighbors to succeed as well. So please do, if you have any tips or tricks for how you have managed, whether it be your household, your work environments. The homeschooling was another one, which we did want to talk on. I was hoping to do another segment on that one, which I will in the future. But how are you handling the homeschooling element and dealing with the communication with your schools? The internet issues that are creeping into it, the Zoom meetings with teachers that are freezing up, and just managing there's so many changes going on, and we want to hear how everyone else is actually managing their lives at this point. One of the conversations I had with someone recently was more about we know the effects of today. We're seeing the current economic changes. We're seeing the social distancing, the social norm changes in how we communicating. Dating is going to be a very different thing in the very near future. For those who are single or in the dating market or in that realm, that world has changed dramatically very recently in a very short period of time. But the homeschooling environment has changed dramatically. Education has changed dramatically in that sphere of time. And a lot of these things we don't tend to see the knock-on effects for many years. And that's one of the areas where I think a conversation is needed, is to find out how do we grapple with the changes of today when it manifests itself in our children in 10 years' time. We saw the iPad generation, for example, and all of a sudden today everyone's looking at social media as this major problem in youth development and how it takes away and how kids are getting too much screen time. When the iPad first came out, it was viewed as a amazing, novel, new device. And now, 12 years on, only 12 years on from it, coming into the market, we've seen just a massive social shift in how we view social media and how we view the iPad. Whereas now, with homeschooling and with parents still working from home and homeschooling their children, the iPad's made an even stronger presence into their kids' lives. We've seen the changes in social norms. How does that manifest itself in 10 or 12 years' time when a 10-year-old child of today is restricted from having any kind of social life for the foreseeable future? How does that ripple in the pond change in 10 years when we look at our children in 10 years and their employability, their ability to socially adjust, when right now there's the iPad homeschool and they're told they can't touch or go near anyone. So some big changes, societal changes that we think in the near future could potentially manifest itself. And while the government of the day is working to manage the current situation, the conversation I think for a lot of parents has to be How are we managing this from a parental standpoint for our kids in the future? And while the government's wrestling with the economics and the health of our community, I think it's imperative that our parents are wrestling with this from a long-term perspective and not relying upon governments and schools and taking it upon themselves to actually deal with this today so that it doesn't become a major issue. Because that's a much bigger epidemic down the road if we have an entire youth generation. On that note, Miss Susan, if we can go to a quick commercial break. Sorry, we did have a WhatsApp note come in. If I can just quickly read this, I have to apologize to the person. I'm not aware of your name. It is a birthday greeting. Unfortunately, I don't have the caller's name. If you're able to call back in and give your birthday greeting, that'd be great. But it is a birthday greeting from his wife, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. We do have another note that's just come in. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Hurley. I am chairman of Jasmine, formerly the Cayman Hospice Care, and just wanted to give a shout out to all of our staff that continue to provide service to our patients on a daily basis. Despite the exposure risks they face, they carry out a tremendous and much needed support, and much love and thanks to them for all that they do. Thank you, Brian, for that big call out, and hopefully we can actually read this again on Friday for the frontline workers. Again, that was Brian Hurley giving a shout out to all of the workers at Jasmine who are taking care of those in the hospice care environment. Thank you, Brian, and thank you again to all of the staff at Jasmine. On that note, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will be getting an ETA on the upcoming press briefing. Be back with more talk today right after this.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of the Business Buzz is brought to you by Count on Us Cayman Limited, offering bookkeeping services, property management, customs brokerage, and Cayman auto and tech services. For more information, call them on 623-6941 or 323-3995 or email info@countonuscaymanlimited.com.
We are ready.
Coronavirus press briefing. Thank you for joining us via our channels as well as Radio Cayman. We go first to Pastor Kathy Ebanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pastor Kathy Ebanks, Executive Pastor of Agape Family Worship Center and a member of the Cayman Ministers Association. Let's pray. Father, we come boldly before you today in praise and thanksgiving. We thank you for your goodness. You are holy, true, and pure in all your ways. There is none like you. You are our rock and our salvation. We thank you for blessing us with another day. We ask you for your peace, your presence, and your comfort in the midst of the struggles that we are facing as a nation. As 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7 says, we humble ourselves today under your mighty hand and cast all our cares on you because you love and care for us. We give you thanks today, Father, for the leadership of our governor, premier, minister of health, the elected members of cabinet, the opposition, and for all our leaders. We ask for you to grant them your wisdom, knowledge, and discernment as they continue to lead the Cayman Islands during this time. Guide and strengthen them and let your divine peace and blessings be on us all. We honor you and give you praise, for you are the true and living God who has the power to do the impossible. We ask for miracles in this crisis and revival in all our hearts. Bless and protect us today, that our government, our islands, our families, and loved ones would be an example to the entire world of your goodness, grace, and mercy. Deliver us from all evil, and we pray these things in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
And thank you, Pastor Kathy Ebanks. We now welcome our panelists, His Excellency the Governor, the Honourable Premier, as well as the Honourable Minister of Health. With us in studio are the Medical Officer of Health, as well as the HMCI Director and the Sign Language Interpreter, Ms. Carolyn Powell. We first call on the Medical Officer of Health, and we'd also like to welcome, of course, our members from the media. Dr. Williams Rodriguez, please.
Hi, good afternoon. So we have some results to report today. We're going to start by giving since the last press release, we have 3 positive results. One is a contact of a known positive patient, and the patient is asymptomatic. The other 2 are part of an ongoing investigation, and they're both asymptomatic. We have a total of 764 results received by press time. 620 were processed at the HSA, 144 were processed at Doctor Hospital. These are a mix of screening results from different sectors of the population and also public health testing for follow-ups. So we have 761 negative results. To date, the total of positive results is 84. We don't have no patient currently admitted associated with COVID-19. 47 have recovered. We have 8 active patients, and of course, 1 death that we all know, the first patient. The flu clinic continue to see numbers like in Friday we saw 10 patients, 5 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. The flu hotline continue also to be pretty much around the same, 23 calls on Friday, 23 on Saturday, and 10 on Sunday. At the government isolation facilities, we have 94 individuals, and individuals in isolation under public health, we have 98. To date, we have a total of 4,188 cases that have been tested and resulted here in the Cayman Islands. I want to take a minute to address the situation with one of our supermarkets that have been in the media, and we want to say that the management of the supermarket have been in close communication with public health, and up to now, we have 121 cases resulted, and a very low percentage of these cases are positive. By the end of tomorrow, we are planning to test the rest of everyone in the supermarket. All contacts have been tested, have been done by the HSA. As it was announced in the media and by the supermarket itself, deep cleaning was executed at the supermarket, also supervised by the Department of Environmental Health. And also the HSA and the Doctor Hospital will continue to do the screening for the rest of the staff. So with that, if there's any question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Williams-Rodriguez. We do have some questions from members of the media. We're going first to April Cummings at Radio Cayman.
Hi, Dr. Rodriguez. 2 questions. One is sort of general. Should people who've been shopping at the grocery store be concerned? Should they do anything different? And the second is, could you talk a little bit about the expanded testing at HSA?
Okay, so the first question, the person who have been shopping in the supermarket shouldn't be concerned if they have been following the advice that we have been giving everyone during these days, basically to keep social distance, to make sure hand hygiene and cough etiquette. When they get home, make sure that they don't touch, they don't touch their face before they can clean or sanitize their hands. So we all have said many times that the main transmission of this virus is by droplets. So it's not by touching food or by touching any superficie. So it's important, hand hygiene is very important and need to be continued not only in any particular place, but all around the Cayman Island. To your second question about enhanced testing, the HSA, because of the country, is enhancing testing. We have actually dedicated 2 areas drive-through for screening, but not all, and we have seen screening over 300 patients per day. But not only that, HSA is also going to organizations, to big companies, screening there as well. And that will continue until we complete this exercise.
So one of the questions that came to me from the public is, as they're hearing about this testing, some of them do want to be tested voluntarily. I understand that that's not what the plan is necessarily at this stage, but can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, definitely the plan at this stage is not to test randomly the whole island. We are focusing in the person who actually have a bigger interaction with the public and to try to open up some sector of the economy as well. So all those frontline testers in the healthcare sector and other sectors as well, the supermarkets, pharmacies, anyone, the group that is already out there these are the ones that we're focusing testing right now. As you all know, we also have increment testing in the sister island, and those are the main group that we are testing right now. We will start testing other groups in order to start allowing them to get into the economy, into the regular hours.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Here we go next to Wendy from CNS. Wendy, please go ahead.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, Dr. Williams. Just a couple of questions. At this point, can you tell us whether the prison has been completed and whether anyone tested positive at the prison?
The prison has not been completed. Most, if not all, of the prison officers have been completed, and also a percentage of the prisoners. None of the prisoners, neither of the prison officers have tested positive at this time.
So none so far.
No.
Okay. Just to clarify, those numbers that you gave earlier, of the three, two of them were the ones from the supermarket.
They are for ongoing investigations. Yes.
Okay, great. Also, one of the questions that keeps coming up a lot now amongst the public is there actually a target for testing, like a daily, like a lot of countries have got daily targets or weekly targets. Have we set one at the HSA yet, like a target that you're aiming for and trying to get at?
We're trying between the HSA and the other facilities that are assisting the HSA, like doctor hospitals and Health City Cayman Island. Our target is to do at least carry between 400 and 450 tests daily.
But when do you think we'll be there?
We should be there now. We're starting. As you noted, the report over the weekend, we have over 760 results.
So you would expect now each day for at least 400 results to be given out each time yourself or Dr. Lee comes?
We're expecting to collect that amount of sample and to process them. As long as there's no issue with our labs or any of the lab or any of the machine, we will expect to report close to that amount of cases daily.
Okay, great. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendy. We now go to Kayla from the Compass.
Hi, Dr. Williams. Earlier, it had been reported that there were 2 frontline staff who had tested positive. Can we get an update of the total number of frontline staff now that we know to have been tested positive following this confirmation of staff at Kirk Market?
I can get that exact number for you, the total of frontline staff. I don't have the exact number now, but the number has been very, very low. I can assure you that.
Perfect. And would it be possible to provide those numbers by sector so that the public might know which types of frontline workers are being most impacted currently?
We will discuss that, and if it's possible, we will provide that information to you.
Okay, thank you. That's all for me.
Okay, we go now to Ralph from the Caymanian Times. Ralph, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Doctor. Just one question regarding another area in testing. If a traveler was to arrive at the island and was tested immediately, how long would they have to stay in quarantine, and if so, why?
So persons who arrive here into the island need to remain in quarantine, must remain in quarantine for 14 days, and they will be tested after the 14 days. If they test negative, they will be allowed to go. The reason we are implementing this is because somebody could be incubating the virus yet and test negative, and then if we allow them to go release them into the public, that there is a risk in there. So that's why we have this 14 days in mandatory isolation for anyone who reached the Cayman Island, and then they will be tested at the end of it.
Thank you.
Okay, Ralph, if that's it for you, we're going to go back to Kayla from the Compass. Kayla, please go ahead. I'm not hearing you. No further questions right now?
Sorry, my questions are for the panel.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll come back to you then. I do have a question for Dr. Williams Rodriguez. The tracing guidelines, what kind of guidelines are we following here in Cayman? Are they UK guidelines or are they US guidelines? Whose guidelines are we following as far as tracing, contact tracing?
Well, contact tracing is actually international standard guideline, and basically anyone who consider a close contact with a person will be traced. And those are all household members or anyone in close work area that have been in a proximity of 1 meter or less during an extended period of time, usually 15 minutes or more.
Okay. Another question on the tail end of that question. Just give us a scenario, if you can, of what that looks like as far as numbers are concerned, because people may think, oh, you just test a couple of people in the household, a couple of people in the job. In some countries, they're testing or tracing up to like 25 to 50 people. What does that look like for us here in Cayman?
Here, normally, when we do contact tracing with any individual, and it's all depend on the household and the members, but usually will be anything between 15 to 25 cases that we screen. The last one we had done, it was 27 persons. So it will vary, but definitely usually more than 15 persons.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Williams-Rodriguez. We're going to go now to the panel, beginning with our Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, everyone. The results over the weekend, I think, are very, very encouraging. That many negatives is something that is very positive. But I think we also need to bear in mind that there are 3 positive results, 2 of which are frontline staff. And that underlines the importance of the exercise that we are carrying out in trying to test as many of the frontline staff, the people who are exposed on a daily basis to a number of other people. Most of these individuals are asymptomatic. Again, something that should give us pause when we agitate, as so many people are, for a swift release of all of the current restrictions and the complete reopening of the economy. The testing has always been a key component of the government's strategy to be able to reopen the economy safely. And we are doing everything we can to ramp up the ability of the systems to be able to deliver more results. We are aiming for significantly more than the 450 that Dr. Williams-Rodriguez spoke about. But there are some capacity issues and some equipment issues that we need to address to be able to significantly increase that number, utilizing places like HCCI as well. So, as Dr. Williams said, the HSA has expanded their testing capacity with the opening of 2 drive-through screening tents for frontline workers and expansion of the laboratory to increase the processing samples in a day. Upon arrival at HSA's drive-through screening area, the whole process takes approximately 5 minutes. HSA has also expanded physical laboratory space at the Cayman Islands Hospital, partnered with a private lab, and has hired and trained additional laboratory staff in order to increase testing capacity. So we are working very hard on that particular front. Now, we released some 6,000 workers back into the workforce, into circulation last week. And so, following the protocols that have been recommended by WHO, we are waiting 2 weeks before we release another significant sector of the economy and put more people back, even more people back into circulation. So we've gone through 1 week of that now, so we go through this week. And the objective of doing it in that way is to be able to see what impact the release of additional people into the workforce and into circulation generally will have on the profile of the virus in the community. We should be able to see during the course of this week if there are any symptomatic cases that pop up. Obviously, the asymptomatic ones continue to be a cause for concern in the sense that you don't necessarily know if someone has it or not, if they're not displaying symptoms. But given the sheer number of people that have been released, we would expect that there would be some sick people if they do have the virus who start to show symptoms and come in for attention. The next sector of the economy that we are looking to release, we've talked about this before, involves construction and development and the reopening of the Home Depots and hardware stores and those sorts of places where people will be able to actually go inside an enclosed space. Obviously, the risks involved in that are significantly greater. And hence the reason why we haven't opened those to start with. The areas that we opened over the course of the last week were areas where it is a delivery of a service or a delivery of a product where you don't necessarily have to interact with the customer on a face-to-face basis. The next step, obviously, will start putting people back in contact with each other, even when you try to observe the physical distancing protocols, which have now become almost second nature, I think, for most of us. So it does significantly increase the risk. And therefore, with some 8,000 people in that sort of construction development sector, it is not going to be possible to simply release that entire sector in one fell swoop without running immense risks. And so that is going to have to be staged in the sense that we are working and will shortly announce a plan of how we'll go about the testing exercise for the construction industry. As far as the Home Depots and so forth are concerned, that is much easier. We can probably test most of their staff fairly swiftly. But we're not going to be able to test everybody in the construction and development industry. So therefore, we have to take a different approach to that. Small companies, construction companies that have, say, 10 employees, relatively easy to test all of your guys and you're okay. But if you've got 90 or 150 people and you got subs, it's not going to be possible in the time that we have to be able to test everyone. So we're going to have to try to do representative sampling of the bigger companies. And we're going to have to stage the reopening in the sense that certain companies will be allowed to open, having met the protocols and having had the testing done, while others will come along in the queue and get open when they have been essentially signed off. I should say that I've spoken to the Medical Office of Health just this afternoon, and it is going to be critical that construction companies understand that they will be subject to public health inspections to ensure that they are carrying out the proper protocols, that their workers are wearing masks, that there are proper sanitation facilities to wash your hands, that there's proper provision for how workers are able to get food and to eat, to try to minimize the risks as we go forward. So I know, because I've received I don't know how many messages, that many people are anxious to go, and we got such low numbers, they say, in terms of positives, that we can just reopen the entire Cayman and we'll be back to business as usual. The lawyers are absolutely the worst. I mean, I just don't know. I think Shakespeare was right. But I'm glad I'm not a lawyer anymore. But the reality is, we would be going against everything that has been written about and everything that we are witnessing as to what happens when you simply just open the doors without further consideration. Even places like South Korea that have been very careful are now back in a situation where they're chasing the virus again. Wuhan. Just watch for the meltdown in the United States. So watch what's going to happen in the United Kingdom, I'm afraid, because of the pressures that are being brought to bear there. We cannot safely reopen the economy until we are certain that there aren't significant numbers of clusters of cases around. All of the signs in Cayman are very good. Our population is small. We've closed the borders. If we are patient a bit longer and if we follow the proper protocols, we can, I am certain, get to a position relatively soon where all of us can move around with real confidence that the virus is unlikely to be in the person that is talking to you now, standing next to you, serving you in the store. We'll be able to, as I've said before, reopen restaurants, particularly those that are able to serve on the terrace or outside, and even perhaps open some of the bars that are open air outside relatively soon. But if we simply yield to pressure and to the demands that we are receiving to just reopen everything now, I don't know why anyone can believe that it's going to be any different in Grand Cayman than it is anywhere else in the world. The virus is going to come back, and it's going to come back with a vengeance, with the result that we either have a complete and utter shutdown of everything again, or we let the virus have its way and take out as many people as it takes out, which is generally the approach that the United States seems to be adopting. As I've said before, I'm not going to go back on one of my on the pulpit again about what I believe the ethos of this country is with respect to human life and the value we place on it. I'm just urging people to be patient. The strategy is working. And if we see it through for another few weeks, I believe we'll come out on the other end very successful. If we, at this stage, give in to the demands and just reopen the economy, I fear we're going to spend the next 6 months in what my father used to call snoring hell.
Thank you, Premier McLaughlin. Your Excellency.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much. I mean, just two comments to add to that, and I agree with everything the Premier has just said. I mean, I know people will be concerned about the outbreak at Kirk's, but I think actually Kirk's handled it extremely competently and efficiently, and we are only talking about a very small number of people, and this is what our frontline testing is for. It's exactly for this purpose. So we will get cases popping up from time to time, but we can then isolate them, track them, and trace them and suppress any wider spread. So I continue to believe as well that our broader strategy is on track, and we will be able to carefully and sensibly and in a measured way open up more as we move through our suppression levels, moving next to level 3. And there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes on that now. Secondly, just on testing, and I do understand that people are impatient to have lots more testing, but we should just recall as well that our system is very robust. We can be 100% certain that it is accurate. And a lot of the rapid tests that are being used in the US only have an 85% success rate, but we know our system is robust. And if you also look at Cayman's statistics, tests per head of population, we are also way up there. I mean, the back of the envelope calculation before I came here today, we're in the top 15 in the world for the amount of testing that we're doing. So yes, we want to do more, and I know people are working very hard to enable us to do more, but I do think we need to keep it in perspective. On evacuation flights, just one announcement today. There are still a small number of seats available on the flight to Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, on Sunday, the 17th of May. Call Cayman Airways direct to book on those, 949-2311, or the Cayman Airways website. There's a lot of discussion going on behind the scenes about different evacuation flights, but there's nothing further to announce today. I just want to make a brief point about vaccines, because this is clearly absolutely crucial to the longer-term solution to this. And I do want to highlight the UK's leading role in trying to find a vaccine for COVID. The UK is one of the biggest donors, £744 million to the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunisation, known as Gavi. And the UK, on the 4th and 5th of June, will be hosting a virtual global vaccine summit, bringing together countries and organisations to follow the UK's lead in investing in the work of Gavi. So I do think it's important just to be aware of that. And then finally today, a shout out to Andy Bonner and our internal audit team in the civil service. May is International Internal Audit Awareness Month. And I think Andy's and his team are a perfect example of how the civil service have really stepped up in this crisis, reprioritising, working flexibly, because Andy's team, in addition to their audit work, have also worked on at our isolation facilities. They've worked on the curfew time team. They've also been supporting the business grant and loans application project, and they've also supported NEOC. So I think they've really shown exactly what it means to step up and deliver for everyone across the islands in this crisis. So thank you to Andy and your team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Excellency. We go now to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman, and our Caymanian diaspora listening in. We say thank you again to everyone that has abided by all the measures and did their best to stay safe. Yes, there are rumors about COVID-19 not being real, just a fallacy. And I know we want to get back to normal quickly. And most believe, and I do, the government is doing a great job. And we thank you for your confidence in us. Unfortunately, there are some that wouldn't say that, and we know that that's how the world runs. Until they get sick from this coronavirus, then it's a different story. I say to you, to the public, take everything serious. Don't just let false news and rumors and international websites deter you from really understanding that COVID-19 is actually here. It's here. And you heard the Premier of the pressure we're under about opening up to all. Every one of us, every minister, every elected person is under that pressure from someone who doesn't really care about human lives and who doesn't have a grandmother that is 100 years old and who doesn't have a mother who is vulnerable. So there's some selfish people in this world, and I can tell you that although we are thankful that the measures we took so early back in March 22nd has been a good result. And also our prayers, our prayer warriors, we can't discount how important that is in the position that this country has found itself in. And I want to say to you, yes, maybe some of it is true that we're seeing overseas, but still it remains that it's here. And we still need to be careful. We still need to do whatever we can to stay safe and stay available for our families. Today's scripture is from Psalm 6. 6. Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. And poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. A troublemaker and a villain who goes about with a corrupt mouth, who winks maliciously with his eye, signals with his feet and motions with his fingers, who plots evil with deceit in his heart. He always stirs up conflict. Therefore, disaster will overtake him in an instant. He will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. There are 6 things the Lord hates. 7 are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Lord, add a blessing to the reading of his holy word. Shout out today to Popeyes and Burger King. Provided food to the HSA staff in Grand Cayman. I thank you very much. Shout out to Star Island. Provided food for the Faith Hospital staff in Cayman Brac. We thank you for that. We can agree that the COVID-19 pandemic has been a learning experience for us all, especially those who are blessed within the government. We've had to learn to adapt quickly as information develops while creating the appropriate contingency plans for our country. Amongst these plans is the field hospital that would accommodate any overflow of COVID-19 patients should our healthcare facilities reach capacity. On Friday, members of the National Emergency Operations Committee, or NEOC, leaders from the HSA and our clinicians toured the facility, the Family Life Center, Alternative Medical Center. This 60-bed facility has been fully equipped to house patients in the event of a resurgence of COVID-19 cases. While we do sincerely hope and pray that we will not have many persons requiring hospitalization, preparing for such a scenario is important for saving lives. A field hospital was identified as a Phase 4 measure in the Cayman Islands clinical guidance for COVID-19 management. Several facilities were assessed and the Family Life Center proved to be the best solution based on size, adequate airflow, and proximity to the Cayman Islands Hospital. If necessary, the facility would require 120 staff members, both clinical and non-clinical, to operate at full capacity. The Family Life Alternative Medical Center will be managed by Dr. Delroy Jefferson, HSA Medical Director, Dr. Elizabeth McLaughlin, HSA Head of Accident and Emergency, and Jillian Barlow, HSA Nurse Manager. The Family Life Alternative Medical Center has been made possible through the public and private sector partnership. Special recognition goes to Mr. Simon Griffiths of the Public Works Department, who managed the project and worked closely with the HSA Clinical Task Force, NEOC, specifically Graham Jackson, NEOC project manager, and private health care providers to ensure all the necessary medical requirements would be met. We'd also like to express gratitude to Pastor Alson Ebanks and his Church of God congregation for providing the Family Life Center. I pray to God that we will never need it. I thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Minister of Health. Go straight to Kayla from The Compass. Kayla, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Donna. All right, my first question is for the Minister of Health. I understand that there have been discussions this week about updating the telemedicine codes and allowing for perhaps more open options for patients and practitioners. Do you have an update that you're able to provide about those discussions?
Yes, thank you very much, Kayla. Those discussions are ongoing. I just had a meeting with the chief officer and Mr. Merv Connolly, and they have got to a point now where they're actually developed a cabinet paper, which, in all good intentions, it should be looked at tomorrow, if allowed, at caucus for taking this telemedicine initiative forward.
Great, thank you for that. We also saw earlier, this next question is directed at both the health minister and the premier. We saw earlier on Twitter that the governor was tested for COVID and is thankfully negative. Is testing also underway for cabinet staff and for the Ministry of Health?
Not yet.
I've been trying to get tested now a month, but it seems that I won't get sick, so they won't test me. But I'm glad and happy to know that I sit right next to the governor every day, and he's well. So I think I'm well.
And there is some testing going on in the building of persons
Yes.
in the building and civil servants.
I'm waiting for my turn.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any plan then to start testing of ministry staff or with the premier of cabinet staff?
We'll wait our turn. They are quite frankly, in my view, they are far more urgent demands on the limited testing capacity of the system than our people. Most of my cabinet ministers have been in isolation, self-imposed isolation. We meet generally by Zoom. There are only, myself included, there are only 3 ministers that come to the building at all. And I'm more than happy to do the test. All of us are, but we're not a priority at this stage.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Premier, you may have been hinting at this earlier with your comments about lawyers, about some of the comments made today regarding the hard curfew and Sunday lockdown measures and providing more transparency to the reasoning behind those measures. Could you provide us some more insight on that, and if there are any plans to publish the written details of the hard curfew measures, and if you believe that the response is proportionate to the public health demand to continue the hard lockdown on Sundays and the ban on marine activity?
The reason for everything we've done and are still doing is saving lives. Saving of lives is not a priority to everyone. I have email after email, message after message, in which people have actually said, some of them lawyers, so what if a few hundred old and vulnerable people die? I've explained that is not the ethos of the government. All of the measures that we've put in place have been aimed at saving lives, and still are. Now, obviously the results that we are having are indicating that we have succeeded in keeping the virus so far from running rampant through this society and killing off hundreds of our people. And so we're going through a measured process of rolling back those restrictions based on the advice we are receiving from WHO, PAHO, Public Health England, and our own public health people here. All of that advice is that it is hugely dangerous and will almost inevitably result in a resurgence of the virus if we simply lift all of the restrictions all at once and have people come back together as they were able to do before the advent of this pandemic. So last Monday, we lifted a significant amount of restrictions on the country as a whole. We have since released Little Cayman and partially released Cayman Brac. In fact, Cayman Brac has very few restrictions now, except the continued requirements for people to conduct themselves in a way in accordance with the protocols that have been developed to limit the spread of the virus. But otherwise, except for the night curfew, they are pretty much free to do whatever they want there. So over the course of this week, we'll continue to do testing. We'll continue to see where we are. And the plan is for next week to further ease some more of these restrictions if the testing continues to go as it is. So we are more than satisfied that not only are the measures we've taken proportionate, but they have been incredibly successful. And I get the complaints. As I say, most of them come from lawyers. And in case anyone thinks that I have some bias against lawyers, I was once a lawyer. I have a wife that is a lawyer. I have a son that is a lawyer. But, you know, their business is not about saving lives. Their obligations are not to the people of this country. Mine are, those of the governor are, and that of my cabinet colleagues and members of the Legislative Assembly. That's what we were elected to do. So some of them have threatened to take me to court. Let them get on with that if that's what they think is in the overall best interest of Cayman. But I and my government are not going to be deterred from doing what we now know for certain is in overall best interest of the people of this country.
And let me just add, if I may, on the hard curfews, which perhaps come as much under my sort of remit. I mean, these have been done entirely in line with the police law, and we are a country which follows the rule of law extremely closely, and everything has been done with the advice of the Attorney General and fully in line with the police law. So I don't think we have released the police commissioner's letters to me, but I don't see any reason why we can't do that, and we'll certainly look at that. But we have followed due process and the rule of law absolutely to the letter, including meetings of Cabinet and the National Hazard Management Executive Council when those are required at particular decision points.
I should say, though, that one of the things that we will consider the next time around is the continued necessity of the hard curfew on Sunday. But we're constantly monitoring how these things are going. We're also looking at the beach and what releases can possibly take place there. Because as we perceive the risks to be lessening, i.e. we're getting more test results and the results are showing what they're showing. Because that's been a big part of the challenge is we're guessing, or not entirely guessing because there aren't sick people, lots of COVID-19 sick people in the hospital and not lots of them queuing up at the emergency. You know, we can draw certain conclusions from that. But given the percentage of asymptomatic people who have COVID-19, and that percentage seems to be higher in Cayman than other places, at least to me anecdotally, we still have to be very careful that we are not fooling ourselves into thinking and lulling ourselves into a sense of security, which will just fall away if we wind up with dozens of cases in 2, 3, 4 weeks' time. That's why we are taking such a measured approach to this.
Okay, thank you for those responses. Will there be a publication of the hard curfew regulations or written details to explain the measures under the hard curfew?
I think the governor's just explained that. The hard curfew is not imposed by regulations. It's imposed by an order of the Commissioner of Police, who has acted after consultation with the National Hazard Management Executive and the Cabinet, and with the permission of the governor.
Okay, thank you. My final question is regarding the humanitarian aspect of all of this. We've been hearing from charities on island that they're struggling to keep up with the demand of people in need and the services that are being requested of them. Is government considering perhaps increasing public assistance, expanding assistance beyond the food vouchers and the supplemental assistance provided now to something more substantial?
I'm not sure what you mean by more substantial. The NAU provides a full range of services to thousands of people. It's not just food vouchers. We pay rent we pay other outgoings. The point is you have to make a case for it, for the assistance to NAU. And many people simply don't want to go through that process.
For example, some of the unemployed who are stuck here and not able to get back to their home countries, I understand that they would be given the assistance through food vouchers, correct? And I'm wondering if that is enough for them given the current situation.
Oh, you're not speaking about local people now, you're talking people who are stuck here. Well, I haven't had...
Going beyond, yeah.
Right. I haven't had a report on any new challenges being experienced by the system. They are not being dealt with by NAU, they're being dealt with directly by the ministry. I will ask for a report, but I haven't had any report of any unusual challenges. Obviously, if people are in need, the government will step in, regardless of whether you're Caymanian or not. As I said before, everybody's got to live, everybody's got to have a roof over their head, and everybody's got to have something to eat. And so we are still committed to doing that if we are aware. I've heard anecdotally that some people are afraid to come and ask for assistance, for the fear that if they do so, government will insist that they leave. And a lot of them are still hoping to be able to resume employment here. Those are anecdotal reports that I have received. I can't say that they are factual, but I've had a number of those. And maybe that is a factor, but I can say to those people, that is absolutely not the case. If when your business, your company resumes business, your employer needs you and wants you back, fine. We know full well that the more people there are here, the more demand there will be for goods and services, and the better shape the local economy will be in. You know, if we completely deplete this this population, it is going to be a bigger struggle for those of us who remain to carry on. So as long as you have a job that you can go back to, we want you to stay. We're not trying to run foreigners away. Our big concern has been the hospitality folk, because it is unlikely in the extreme that there's going to be much to do in the hospitality industry for the next 6-8 months, perhaps. But that is a different matter. But so I just get these anecdotal reports. I don't get to move around as much as I used to anymore because of all of these things. But I do get many messages in the course of a day.
Thank you. I've taken up a lot of time today, so I'll pass the screen over to the next reporter.
Okay, thank you, Kayla. We go to Wendy from CNS.
Thank you, Donna. I have a very quick housekeeping question first, because I keep forgetting to ask it. Airmail, overseas mail, when is it coming back?
Wendy, I'm afraid I can't answer the question. I will inquire again today, but I don't have a report.
Okay, cool. At least I've asked it now, so they can't shout at me anymore. Okay, another question is, you did say this on Friday about the helpers, and I heard it quite clearly, and it was quite categorical. However, given the situation that more people are likely to be going back to work, certainly next week, and we've already had a huge surge of people go back to work this week, the childcare issue is going to become a problem if schools are going to remain closed. So the questions that people have been asking is, what's the situation with the early learning centres? Do we have any kind of timeline for when they might open? And again, at what point nannies or domestic helpers will, where they will actually be allowed to return, if perhaps they can get tested or whatever, if there's some system in place, because it could be quite problematic otherwise.
When I'm told there are 5,000 domestic helpers.
Wow.
So I did float that idea about, could we test them? Well, that's an impossibility. You can test a few, but which means that taking someone back into your house is going to be fairly risky until we have a better idea than I think we do now with 4,300 or whatever number of tests we have now done. If that number were 10,000, I'd be a lot more comfortable, and the results were no different in saying, well, chances are they don't have it. I don't know what the plan is with respect to the early learning centers. I haven't been in any discussions, haven't heard it raised in any discussions that I'm in, but tomorrow we're having an extensive caucus meeting, so I'll get a better idea about where that is. Yes, with people going back to work, it is going to increase the challenges if you go back into the field. I'm hoping that though as many people as possible can still continue and will still continue to work from home, but obviously if you're a construction worker, you can't do that work from home. So I do understand the challenges.
Okay, thank you for that, because it's a big public interest issue. The other one is a bit more broad. Quite a few people have raised the issue about obviously stimulating the economy, and I asked this ages ago when I said about have you considered borrowing so that you can, expand the public sector a little bit and bring more people in that have perhaps lost jobs in the private sector. Yes. And one of the things that is coming up is government planning. I know you started on the roads. Are you planning on doing the schools projects anytime soon? And is there perhaps even time to review the situation at the dump and start that project perhaps in a different way if things can't go as you'd originally wanted?
Well, I don't know I would hate to throw away what is a 7-year project with respect to the waste management and start over now. I mean, I'll be a real old man when it's done by then. I think that project can proceed. The question about whether government proceeds with others of its major projects is one that we have to talk about. But certainly my view at this stage is that we should continue with as many of them as we possibly can. Not only because they are needed, and once we come out of the crisis and population starts to build back, we're going to need that additional infrastructure and resources, but it also will continue to put money into the economy and give more people job opportunities. I do really believe that development and construction is going to take off again at the pace, if not greater than it was before. All the indications we are getting from developers is that they have money in place and they have staff here, and they want that's why they're pressing so hard to get development and construction restarted, because they don't want their staff to leave, because it's going to be very difficult to get them back. People have to come back. They're going to have to do quarantines. Let alone what may happen to them when they go back to wherever they live. So they are anxious, and the government is keenly conscious of how important it is that we get that restarted. But we're having to balance that desire and that demand against the public health risks, because, as I said to one developer over the weekend, all you need is one sick man on your site, and you're back to square one. In fact, you're worse than square one. The whole site gets shut down. And so we got to be very, very careful and conscious of all of that. But I do believe that development and construction are going to lead the local economy for the next 6-9 months, for sure. And it's key that we get that moving.
Just to be sort of slightly specific, is that a yes to the schools?
Well, the reason I can't say that is because we haven't had that specific discussion with my caucus or cabinet, and I can't take that executive decision here.
Fair enough. No, I appreciate it. And the last one is going to be labelled my stupid or brave question of the day, but somebody's got to ask it. There's a picture circulating of the Speaker at the memorial, so Mr. Singh Ebanks' memorial service at the weekend, where he's not wearing his mask properly, which is obviously a concern. And also, can you clarify what his situation is as far as leave is concerned, because he is in his full ceremonial regalia. So is he on leave? Is he not on leave? And what do you say about the fact that he wasn't wearing his mask properly?
Well, I haven't seen the photo And any issues relating to the proper or improper wearing of the mask, you'll have to take up with Mr. Bush himself. I can't comment on those. Mr. Bush took leave from his post, his substantive post as Speaker, following the incident, which has been widely reported. And it's also been widely reported that he has been charged with certain offenses and that he's appeared before the court, and I think there's another court date coming shortly. But he still holds the substantive post as Speaker. And so merely because you're on leave doesn't mean that you have given up the post. So what I can say is that until that matter or those matters are resolved, he will not resume presiding over meetings of the Legislative Assembly. Obviously, when those matters are resolved, decisions will have to be taken about the way forward. But he is still the substantive Speaker. There is no acting Speaker. The Constitution doesn't provide for that. You have a Deputy Speaker who has just recently been elected, and in the absence of that, as we saw, one of the members of the House is elected to preside over a particular sitting. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you very much. That's all my questions, Donna. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. We go now to April from Radio Cayman. April?
Mr. Premier, I just was hoping for a little bit of clarification. I got some correspondence from some of our listeners in the BRAC, and you touched on it earlier, but just the questions came up about whether they were really allowed to freely circulate as they used to. People were having parties. They wanted to know if that was okay. So there just seemed to be a lot of questions about how much freedom there is in the BRAC currently under the new rules.
Well, the shelter-in-place regulations, which obtain and applied broadly across the Cayman Islands, were amended so that most of those do not apply to Cayman BRAC and Little Cayman anymore. I would so there is no limit on the except I think the limit is 25 persons together. Is the now size of a gathering, of a public gathering. But I really wouldn't encourage parties at this stage. Hence why we, at the recommendation of the members from the BRAC, the two ministers from the BRAC, we have left in place the night curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. and why bars remain closed.
So is it safe to say that you are expecting folks to conduct themselves with a reasonable measure of social distancing and following all the other protocols, in spite of the fact that there does not appear to be any widespread instance of COVID-19 in the BRAC?
Yes, with common sense and restraint.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, April. We finally go to Ralph at the Caymanian Times. Ralph, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, panel, especially Mr. Premier. I hope you're doing well today. I have a few questions for you, sir. My first question, we went into suppression number 4 a week ago. How is it going so far with the reopening?
I think it's going very well. I see Dr. Williams Rodriguez smiling with me, so I think he agrees. But I think this week we will really know because of the usual incubation period for the virus, 5 to 7 days. During the course of this week, I think we should be getting a clearer indication of whether that has had a negative effect on the progress. That's the wrong word. Should never use the word progress. On the movement of the transmission of the virus through the community. We are hopeful that it hasn't. As I said, the category of people or employees that were released shouldn't have a great deal. They shouldn't have a great deal of person-to-person contact, because their job essentially is to deliver services and products without the need for face-to-face interaction.
So the next stage or next phase should be more challenging to see how the opening up sort of moves on.
Right, and which is why I said that we are thinking that we would not be able to simply release the estimated 8,000 people that are involved in development and construction more broadly, all in one fell swoop. That we will have to stage that over the course of a couple of weeks, rather than just flip the switch as we did with the first phase last Monday.
My second question is one of my favorite topics, money. I was hoping that your finance minister would be able to visit with you one of these days.
I said, Rod, hate to cut you off, but I did announce last week that the Minister for Finance is coming on this week. Okay. So we're having a caucus meeting tomorrow. We're going to talk about a number of things. It's going to be along those long ones. We're going to talk about government finances. We're going to talk about the government's proposal to put in place contingency borrowing. We're going to talk about the economy generally, and about our projections and plans for how we keep the economy going in the interim while the borders continue to be closed.
I look forward to that meeting. I'll definitely have a few questions. Just two more brief questions before I say goodbye. Frontline staff, do you think businesses should disclose whenever they have positive cases, particularly now that we are moving towards testing frontline staff?
I'm not sure how that is going to help. What I mean is, other than create alarm, that's how I try to assess these things. So if there were not proper protocols put in place, as soon as one is identified, public health moves in, they isolate the individual concerned, they isolate the persons who are known contacts, and then they start the tracing. So, and as we've seen with Kirk's, where there is concern, the whole place is closed down, there's deep cleaning, and then the place is reopened. So I think that we have demonstrated, the government has demonstrated that it takes these things very, very seriously. I think reputable organizations like Kirk's, businesses like Kirk's, have demonstrated how much care and concern they have as well about public safety. And everybody has acted, as far as I'm concerned, admirably in respect to the challenges that we've had. So I wouldn't say that the public need to be unduly concerned about how government and businesses are managing these things, but just to protect themselves, as always, in line with the recommendations that Dr. Williams-Rodriguez made today when you go into these places. And you know that you're touching surfaces, avoid touching your face. As soon as you have an opportunity to wash your hands properly. Whatever you've bought, if it's in a container, whatever, make sure that you discard the container, that you wash whatever produce there is before you put it up. Those sort of measures will go a long way, I think, to minimize any chance of you contracting the virus as a result of a visit to the supermarket.
Okay, thank you. And you will agree that this pandemic will not go away tomorrow. It will be here for some time, and as we mentioned before, the positive cases will show up from time to time, and maybe that's one reason why you assure the country that the government is handling these cases with utmost care to make sure that they minimize any serious incidents. One final question, and will we be having these press briefings on a regular basis for the next 2 or 3 months?
I don't know. We've decided we won't have one tomorrow, though. No, the thing is that it is important that we continue to communicate with the public about what is going on. and to be as open and transparent and assuring as we possibly can. But I think we are reaching a stage now that we probably don't need one every day. And so I think this week we're going to aim for Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Well, that's all for me for today. So until Thursday, that's it for me, Donna. Thanks.
Until Thursday.
Okay, thank you very much, Ralph. I do have one final question. This question is for Dr. Williams. Sorry. This question is for Dr. Williams Rodriguez. Dr. Williams Rodriguez, you've mentioned that there are a number of people who've been tested positive that are asymptomatic. What are the chances of persons who don't show any symptoms having other persons around them who may be showing symptoms but they're not reporting it?
Well, the person who are not showing symptoms, normally it's very unlikely that they can transmit the disease to others, even though we know that this is possible. We have heard that some rumors that there are persons in the same household without or with symptoms without not reporting the same. But once somebody is diagnosis of confirmed to be positive, we will go into the house, our public health will go into the house and will test everyone in the house, regardless if they have symptoms or not. So we will know if anyone else is positive in the household.
Okay, I think further to that question, though, do we believe that there are people in the community who are not reporting that they're having symptoms because they may simply want to be able to go to work or move about, and they're just not reporting that they're sick? They may be having symptoms, but they don't feel like calling the flu line to be told that they have to go into isolation because of. Do we believe that there are people in the community that exist like that?
We don't have any evidence to confirm that there's people in the community with symptoms and not reporting it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Williams Rodriguez. Okay, final words from our panelists.
Just one shout out and a happy birthday to Miss John McLean at the passport office, Miss Janice McLean, and your staff. Want to tell you they appreciate you very much from the passport office.
Okay. I'm actually seeing here Wendy may have a final question. So can we go back to her for a moment? Wendy, I'm coming back to you right now. Wendy from
Thank you, Donna. It's just a very quick one, simply because we know that the public are really interested in test numbers. So if we're not having press briefings, which is fine, but will we be able to get the testing results each day, maybe through a press release or through GIS in some way, because we know that the public really want to know that.
I think the numbers will be posted on the website.
I think they'll get posted on the dashboard, yeah. Wendy.
Okay, so even if you guys don't appear, we can still.
Yeah, well, that's been the case.
There will be an updated number tomorrow.
That's been the case for the last couple of weeks.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any final words, Your Excellency, Premier McLaughlin? Okay, well, with that, before we go, a reminder from Commissioner of Police, Mr. Derek Byrne, regarding the following curfew restrictions that remain in place until the 15th of May. Please listen carefully if you're not sure. The soft curfew or shelter-in-place regulations on Grand Cayman remains in place between 5 a.m. and 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday. The hard curfew or full lockdown, of course, is for everyone except essential services personnel. That remains in effect here on Grand Cayman, as well as Cayman Brac, as the Premier mentioned earlier, the hours of 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. nightly Monday to Saturday. You can exercise, of course, up to 90 minutes Monday to Saturday between the hours of 5:15 a.m. and 7 p.m. No exercise is permitted on Sunday, as you should know at this point. Because of the period of hard curfew, this relates to Grand Cayman only, as these restrictions have been removed from the sister islands as it relates to exercise. A full 24-hour hard curfew as it relates to public access to the beach on Grand Cayman remains in place. That's happening through to Friday, the 15th of May, 5 a.m. This means no access to public beaches here on Grand Cayman at any time until that date. This stops any person from entering on, walking, swimming, snorkeling, fishing, or engaging in any type of marine activity on any public beaches here on the big island of Grand Cayman. The Commissioner is reminding the public that breach of these curfews carries a penalty of $3,000 and imprisonment for 1 year, or of course, both. could happen as well. A reminder to go online to gov.ky/coronavirus for any answers to your most pressing questions. Also for guidelines on DVDL renewals. Also, you can go online to eservices.gov.ky to find out about online government services there. Of course, thank you to you, the public, and of course to our panel for joining us. There will not be a press briefing tomorrow, but we invite you to join us back here again on Wednesday. We'll leave you now, for those of you watching via television, with a look at the regional and world coronavirus statistics.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman would like to commend the Cayman Islands government and all the entities who are working tirelessly to ensure that our islands remains strong during these difficult times. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman would like to remind everyone about the challenges facing our elderly. They are our moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and grandparents. They cared for us as children, and they need you now. Please do your part to ensure that our most vulnerable are cared for and that you are practicing all preventative hygiene measures, including thorough hand washing, social distancing, and if necessary, self-isolation. Let's all do our part to help keep our Cayman Islands strong. This message was brought to you by the Lions Club of Grand Cayman, serving the Cayman Islands for 48 years. More than ever, we need to ensure our friends, neighbors, colleagues, and family are staying well with social distancing. That means being creative. Call them regularly. Create WhatsApp groups. Offer to assist with shopping or running errands. You could use an app like Nextdoor to see if your neighbors need assistance while the world grapples with the latest challenges. Be Cayman kind. Cayman Insurance Center. For 45 years, they have worked with the community and their families on protecting themselves for the future. If you need someone to speak to during these challenging times, call Denise Brown at 814-7229 or Michael Webster at 925-5433. Cayman Insurance Center. They care about you.
Football Association.
Hey, fellas, we ain't gonna ever back down from nobody.
This is Alfredo Whitaker, president of the Cayman Islands Football Association.
I don't care who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied.
Show your support. Your teams are working hard to be the best.
CIFA. Cayman Islands Football Association.
Building a better future for Cayman football.
If one of us go down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight.
Radio Cayman and CIFA, your team. 2020, your year.
So let's hit this field and bang them.
CIFA, Cayman Island Football Association.
Go out and support the matches in your district.
Radio. With the switch of a dial, radio brings you tragedy, comedy, entertainment, information, education, a whole world at your command.
Give me some sound over here.
Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show.
Radio. Proudly sponsored by the Cayman Islands Football Association. CIFA, building a better future for Cayman football.
Word up, and we in effect. Keep on listening.
Super Jam.
The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center. Don't take chances with your family's future.
Another proud sponsor of the Super Jam Show.
Merengue Town.
Time to feel the rhythm. Time to feel the vibe. It's time for Merengue Town.
And by the Lions Club of Grand Cayman, serving the Cayman Islands for 48 years.
Wow, Sinatra.
Just last month we were chilling, then COVID came like a villain. I told my cousin we gonna hang after this thing is finished. Trusting God we gon' make it, take precautions for safety. Yeah, trusting God we gon' make it, we gon' make it, we gon' make it. 345 where you at? COVID tryna bring the world down, now it's time to fight back. You can keep your bad vibes, hating on the franchise. Tell the church to all rise, we praying for the best on my people. We gon' make it through to see the 2020 sequel. Tough times don't last, man, only tough people. Tryna paint some hope with the world on my easel. R.I.P. to those who passed away. You some haven't been outside my house in a while, but I'm working on myself, on my spirit. Social distance will save you, my child. That don't mean you should feel depressed and start tripping. 2020 isn't canceled, we still living. Look at the silver lining, we got stronger, so don't give in. Unity is power, so it's power we are giving. If we work together, then we gon' make a difference. I know we going through tough times for sure. February earthquake shaking our world, and then the late great Kobe passed away with this girl, and now it's cough cough, get him to the hospital, bro, for real. We've been living a while in slow pleasure, but COVID-19 is telling us to get our act together. Treasure your loved ones, tomorrow is promising none. Rest assured, trusting God, better days are to come. Just last month we were chilling, then COVID came like a villain. I told my cousin we gonna hang after this thing is finished. Trusting God we gon' make it, take precautions for safety. I hope the islands can hear this, together we fighting fearless. We so blessed out here in the islands. Tell Corona hush and be silent. Trust the process, we gon' survive it, we gon' survive it. Shout out to my fam, shout out XOJDP, shout out BT, shout out my community, shout out Westside, Southside, GT. We's a family, can't forget about the East, yeah, 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 yeah. Just last month we were chilling, then COVID came like a villain. I told my cousin we gonna hang after this thing is finished. Trusting God we gon' make
Area code 345 LSN overtime.
I going down there directly. I go down there directly.
Area code 345 LSN overtime.
Bobo, I'm going down by Walmart, going to pick up a fish. You want to come over?
Hey, JJ gonna body. Wow,
Just last month we were chilling, then COVID came like a villain. I told my cousin we gonna hang after this thing is finished. Trusting God we gon' make it, take precautions for safety. Yeah, trusting God we gon' make it, we gon' make it, we gon' make it. 345 where you at? COVID tryna bring the world down, now it's time to fight back. You can keep your bad vibes, hating on the franchise. Tell the church to all rise, we praying for the best on my people. We gon' make it through to see the 2020 sequel. Tough times don't last, man, only tough people. Tryna paint some hope with the world on my easel. R.I.P. to those who passed away. You some haven't been outside my house in a while, but I'm working on myself, on my spirit. Social distance will save you, my child. That don't mean you should feel depressed and start tripping. 2020 isn't canceled, we still living. Look at the silver lining, we got stronger, so don't give in. Unity is power, so it's power we are giving. If we work together, then we gon' make a difference. I know we going through tough times for sure. February earthquake shaking our world, and then the late great Kobe passed away with this girl, and now it's cough cough, get him to the hospital, bro, for real. We've been living a while in slow pleasure, but COVID-19 is telling us to get our act together. Treasure your loved ones, tomorrow is promising none. Rest assured, trusting God, better days are to come. Just last month we were chilling, then COVID came like a villain. I told my cousin we gonna hang after this thing is finished. Trusting God we gon' make it, take precautions for safety. I hope the islands can hear this, together we fighting fearless. We so blessed out here in the islands. Tell Corona hush and be silent. Trust the process, we gon' survive it, we gon' survive it. Shout out to my fam, shout out XOJDP, shout out BT, shout out my community, shout out Westside, Southside, GT. We's a family, can't forget about the East, yeah, 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 yeah. Just last month we were chilling, then COVID came like a villain. I told my cousin we gonna hang after this thing is finished. Trusting God we gon' make it, take precautions for safety. I hope the islands can hear this, together we fighting fearless.
What is
is your profession?
Think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it, love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it, praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch
What is your profession?
Think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it, love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it, praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
The world doesn't like me. I'ma still spit the word plainly in every verse. Watch me just do it like Nike. Telling people to repent and trust in the King Jesus, cause the wrath of God is frightening. And he's finna return like a thief in the night. Yeah, something fast like lightning. Think I'm not gonna stand firm when it comes to the gospel, homemade. Watch me do it. I stand on the word and at Christ's feet I learn he is authority and truth, kid. And whatever the word say, we seek to obey, homie, and get straight to it. The only time we gonna stop proclaiming his name is when we're dead 6 feet in the grave. And by our death he's gonna receive praise.
Folks think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it, love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it, praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
Christian with distinction. Watch me do it, watch me do it. Don't change shape just to save face. I'm not fluid, I won't do it. Christian with a mission. We don't sit down till the sundown. We don't compromise. Bear fruit like a mango tree can bear fruit. Have a mango seed. Faith in Christ evidences life. No fence in sight. Stay far from the line. Don't park from the line. Walk right straight. Talk straight. God from the line. Stay by faith. Live by faith. In by four. Christ only. Gospel missing. What you doing? Soulless Christus. Watch me.
Folks think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it, love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it, praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
You don't think I fall down, bounce right back up? Then watch me do it. Folks think that I won't act up. They better watch what they boast. They watch me spit that like two peeps who need Jesus. Then grace that lips up. All in the name of Christ. Yes, cause he paid the price, died, but he came back. So we live life breath, redeems despite. Tell him carefully, analyze my rhythm, cause my heartbeat gon' rush from adrenaline. Then you see me fight to live again, pulling down curtains on for the light show. And so I gotta go praise God like I'm in heaven with pom-poms made from my afro.
Folks think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it.
What is your profession?
Think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it, love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it, praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
The world doesn't like me. I'ma still spit the word plainly in every verse. Watch me just do it like Nike. Telling people to repent and trust in the King Jesus, cause the wrath of God is frightening. And he's finna return like a thief in the night. Yeah, something fast like lightning. Think I'm not gonna stand firm when it comes to the gospel, homemade. Watch me do it. I stand on the word and at Christ's feet I learn he is authority and truth, kid. And whatever the word say, we seek to obey, homie, and get straight to it. The only time we gonna stop proclaiming his name is when we're dead 6 feet in the grave. And by our death he's gonna receive praise.
Folks think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it, love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it, praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
Christian with distinction. Watch me do it, watch me do it. Don't change shape just to save face. I'm not fluid, I won't do it. Christian with a mission. We don't sit down till the sundown. We don't compromise. Bear fruit like a mango tree can bear fruit. Have a mango seed. Faith in Christ evidences life. No fence in sight. Stay far from the line. Don't park from the line. Walk right straight. Talk straight. God from the line. Stay by faith. Live by faith. In by four. Christ only. Gospel missing. What you doing? Soulless Christus. Watch me.
Folks think that I won't make it. Watch me do it, fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it, love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it, praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
You don't think I fall down, bounce right back up? Then watch me do it. Folks think that I won't act up. They better watch what they boast. They watch me spit that like two peeps who need Jesus. Then grace that lips up. All in the name of Christ. Yes, cause he paid the price, died, but he came back. So we live life breath, redeems despite. Tell him carefully, analyze my rhythm, cause my heartbeat gon' rush from adrenaline. Then Can you see me fight to live again? Pulling down curtains on for the light show. Am so I gotta go praise God like I'm in heaven with pom-poms made from my afro.
Folks think that I won't make it. Watch me do it. Fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it. Love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it. Praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
Okay, take a seat there, homie. You don't wanna do it, then watch me do it. They don't wanna preach and watch me throw it up. Dumb like sheep, man, we blow it. But we got a better path for the son of man. Good shepherd leads sheep when safe for him. And a staff for the wolf in sheep clothes. And a bullet wolf boy, cause he knows. Okay, let me kill him. Since that villain, ain't no surprise, this guy's like an angel. An angel light, and it came to deceive me. Got me so in love with the darkness. He ain't got no grace, no life for him. Only death in the grave, no Christ for him. So I take it to the streets, yeah, watch me do it. Preach Christ, then watch him do it.
Praise God, watch me do it. Shout truth, watch me do it. Love God, watch me do it. Act crazy, watch me do it. Praise God, watch me do it. Shout truth, watch me do it. Love God, watch me do it. Act crazy, watch me do it. Praise God, watch me do it. Shout truth, watch me do it. Love God, watch me do it. Act crazy, watch me do it. Praise God, watch me do it. Shout truth, watch me do it. Love God, watch me do it. Act crazy, watch me do it. Folks think that I won't make it. Watch me do it. Fall down, then bounce right back up. Watch me do it. Love God and love my neighbor. Watch me do it. Praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
What? Yes! Oh my God, I'm so excited! Yay!
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hands up to the sky, know it's true that one day we're gonna fly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Caught up in the clouds.
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, that's you and I.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hands up to the sky, know it's true that one day we're gonna fly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Caught up in the clouds.
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, that's you and I. That's you and I.
Yeah, mama, we made it somewhere they dollars can purchase. And though we so far from perfect, we're trusting Christ who will take us. There is no one we're leaving unless they're far from believing. Till then we try to convince them to come the truth and receive it. Won't be ashamed when we're preaching. If that, then all of us losing. Hell wins and all will be burning. The least I could do is warn them of the real danger they're facing. Pray that they're trusting our nonsense. Give hope a shot and stop running. The light, it fades where you're going. One day we'll fly, no airplanes, no gliders, no wings. But we gotta get ready for the takeoff. Cut that way, we gotta loosen. Losing more than your cornflakes. Don't just focus on the ones that I guess we gotta dig deep. Hit our knees and that spirit of God to bring change to us. Come to Christ and get a new sight. New heart, not new man. Stay strong, it's a process. Some hate you, but you love them. We don't get to be popular. If that's better than the populace. Gotta persevere, gotta push through it. See your power when we fly.
Hands up to the sky, know it's true that one day we're gonna fly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Caught up in the clouds.
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, that's you and I.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
Hands up to the sky, know it's true that one day we're gonna fly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Caught up in the clouds.
Yeah, we made it.
Yeah, that's you and I. That's you and I.
It fills my heart just to know your grace. Can't wait to see you face to face. Oh, one they know is left to amaze. Your love is beyond time and space.
Hands up to the sky, know it's true that one day we're gonna fly. Caught up in the clouds, yeah, that's you and I. Hands up to the sky, know it's true that one day we're gonna fly. Caught up in the clouds, yeah, that's you and I. That's you and I.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Funky Tank Shen Road location is now open for deliveries Monday to Saturday.
8 a.m.
a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 949-0998. WhatsApp 916-0568. Or email markw_ft@hotmail.com. Funky Tanks is your music and more store. Shedden Road location now open for deliveries Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Stay safe and stay home, Cayman.
We at the RCIPS, National Drug Council, and Radio Cayman are reminding you that a DUI conviction will cost you at minimum $1,000. You could lose your life, license, family, or friends. Collisions are more likely to take place when someone's judgment is impaired by alcohol. Stay safe, stay home, stay alive, Cayman.
You may be home isolating, but your taste buds can explore the world. Dragon Inn Restaurant in Countryside Plaza, offering savory dishes in traditional, authentic, American, Szechuan, Mandarin, Filipino cuisine, and Cantonese style, made fresh daily. Family dinner specials, rich in taste with no MSG. Choose from stir fry, chop suey, chow mein, sweet and sour, and so much more. Call 947-1166. Pick up Monday to Saturday from 10:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. Delivery 7 days per week until 9 p.m. Dragon Inn Restaurant and Countryside Plaza. Daily lunch specials and combinations, bringing international deliciousness to your doorstep. Call 947-1166 to place your order.
This is a public service announcement from Radio Cayman, your community radio station.
Curfew restrictions remain in place until 5 a.m. on the 15th of May. The soft curfew or shelter-in-place regulations on Grand Cayman remains in place between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday. The hard curfew or the full lockdown is for everyone except essential services personnel. That remains in operation here on Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac between the hours of 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. nightly Monday to Sunday. Also, you can exercise up to 90 minutes between the hours of 5:15 a.m. and 7 p.m. daily, Monday to Saturday. No exercise is permitted on Sunday during the period of curfew. This relates to Grand Cayman only, as these restrictions have been removed from the sister islands. Now, a full 24-hour hard curfew as it relates to our beaches. Access to the beaches, the public beaches that is on Grand Cayman, remains in place through to Friday, the 15th of May, 2020 at 5 a.m. This means that no access to public beaches on Grand Cayman at any time until that date is allowed. This stops any person from entering on, walking, swimming, snorkeling, fishing, or engaging in any type of marine activity on any public beach here on Grand Cayman. Breach of the curfews carries a penalty of $3,000 and imprisonment for 1 year or both.
So bear fruit like a mango tree can pear fruit, have a mango seed. Will Sinatra, watch him do it. Positive Mondays, watch him do it.
Watch me do it. Praise God like I'm in heaven. Watch me do it.
Will Sinatra, Will Sinatra, Will Sinatra.
J Prophet, yeah, yeah. Now, girl, you've been through. J Prophet, yeah, yeah. Now, girl, you've been through it all. I never met someone so strong. Girl, you've been through hell and back, that's a fact. I never met someone who stayed intact. Even though they try to break you, never gonna see you in a position where you gonna beg fools, stronger than the bamboo. Something like a caterpillar coming out the comb. They're gonna watch you bloom. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When they ask how you do it, hit them with the I'm fun and the peace sign. Cause this time it's your time. Never gonna see you cry. They never gonna see you fall, yeah. No matter how hard they try, they never gonna see you fall, yeah, yeah. Girl, you've been through it all. I never met someone so strong. Girl, you've been through hell and back, that's a fact. I never met someone who stayed intact. Even though you got the looks, you be sticking to your books. You the type of chick who cook, who can keep their man up. You the girl who go to church. You the girl who book out first. You the girl who know her worth. So you always live and learn. Okay, never gonna get you in the same spot. thought twice. Nice, I like the way you vibe. You never keep your head to the ground. You keep it to the sky. That's a woman who trusts in the Most High. Yeah. When they ask how you doing, hit them with the I'm fun and the peace sign. Cause this time it's your time, girl. Never gonna see you cry. They never gonna see you fall, yeah. No matter how hard they try, they never gonna see you fall, yeah. Girl, you've been through it all. I never met someone so strong. Girl, you've been through hell and back, that's a fact. I never met someone who stayed intact. Never gonna see you cry. They never gonna see you fall, yeah. No matter how hard they try, they never gonna see you fall, yeah. She's a strong girl. She's a strong girl, yeah. J Prophet.
Mommy, it's the hardest thing I ever done. After July 6, I can't see myself.
Without you, my life is incomplete. My heart feels so weak. I got no one to talk to. Only you were the one. You gave me all you had. You left me on my own. I promised you my life, but now you're gone. Now you're gone. Now you're gone.
Mommy, it's the hardest thing I ever done. After July 6, I can't see myself.
Without you, my life is incomplete. My heart feels so weak. I got no one to talk to. Only you were the one. You gave me all you had. You left me on my own. I promised you my life, but now you're gone. Now you're gone. Now you're gone. Now you're gone to heaven. Now you're gone.
You're gone, I shed so many tears. Mommy, still can't believe you ain't here. Thinking life ain't really that fair. Wake me up cause I'm in a nightmare. Who would ever thought it would end July 6? Doctors telling me you no longer exist. Never in the millionaires, I can picture this. No longer in the physical, I gotta reminisce.
So I hold on to all of the good times. DeAndre and AJ's doing fine. I know you're smiling in heaven while you're looking down. It's so hard, but what I'm gonna do now?
Without you, my life is incomplete. My heart feels so weak. I got no one to talk to. Only you were the one. You gave me all you had. You left me on my own. I promised you my life, but now you're gone. Now you're gone. Now you're gone. Now you're gone to heaven. Now you're gone.
Yeah, we used to talk so much. I'm gonna miss the fact I could always call you up. Every time I was going through problems, you would listen, even though you couldn't solve them. So it's like I lost more than a mother, a best friend, a big sister, my only next of kin. You was my biggest supporter. You used to give me everything when you couldn't afford to.
I cherish all the good times. DeAndre and AJ's doing fine. I know you smiling in heaven while you're looking down. It's so hard, but what I'm gonna do now?
Without you, my life is incomplete. My heart feels so weak. I got no one to talk to. Only you were the one. You gave me all you had. You left me on my own. I promised you my life, but now you're gone. Now you're gone. Mommy, now you're gone. Now you're gone to heaven. Now you're gone.
meet again. It's by till we meet again. Meet again. It's by till we meet again. Rest in peace, mommy. I love you. It's by until we meet again. Until we meet again.
Local Sound Nation.
Cayman back to back.
Local Sound Nation.
Local Sound Nation.
You are listening to Radio Cayman Super Jam. Local Sound Nation.
Will Sinatra takes Mother's Day into overtime.
Mommy, you birthed me, and you never desert me. God say you deserve me. Lord knows you never hurt me. This song, this is for me. Lord knows you don't raise no dummy. I ask God not to take you from me. It's your song for you, from me. Laid me down and she raised me up. Gave me love, never gave me up. Gave me health and she made me trust. I call her my lady luck. Most times I say things I shouldn't. She still forgive me with all her goodness. Did what she could, never said she couldn't. And never charged rent when I lived in her stomach. I moved out, she never gave me the boot. Sweet lies gave birth to the truth. Gave up fun for a sick little youth. Everything under the sun, good thing I was killed. Made something out of nothing, limes to honey. Dollars from 1 cent, rainy day sunny. This is your song, for you from me. Although you're grown and you listen to country, but this song, this is for me. Lord knows you don't raise no dummy. I ask God not to take you from me. It's your song, for you, from me. This song, this is for me. Lord knows you don't raise no dummy. I ask God not to take you from me. It's your song, for you, from me. Yes, she's the best. Keep me fly, she would keep me fresh. Stay up while I sleep just to see my breath in. Put Vic salve on my wheezing chest. Yeah, she kept me alive, and I would love to be right by her side. I gave you away as a second-time bride. I wanna treat you special, God knows I try. And when your truck crashed, my soul was ripped up. Sitting there thinking how to raise my sisters, but you got better, and for that I kiss ya. But I'll kill the man that hit ya. She put up bail money when the post came for me. Every day not sunny, but you're sweet like honey. This is your song, for you from me. Though you're grown and you listen to country, but this song, this is for me. Lord knows you don't raise no dummy. I ask God not to take you from me. It's your song, for you, from me. This song, this is for me. Lord knows you don't raise no dummy. I ask God not to take you from me. It's your song, for you, from me.
How are you doing today, ma'am?
Oh, I'm just fine, except for these broken down knees and this crick in my back, spots in front of my eyes, blood pressure rising. Other than that, I'm just fine.
Giving thanks for another day. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Cayman has 3 positive results for COVID-19 today.